some of the hottest cars New York has ever seen. From dropping some of the hottest verses rappers ever heard. From the dope spot with the smoke, fleeing the murder scene, you know me well. From nightmares of a lonely cell, my only hell. But since when y'all brothers know me to fail? Heck no, we're all my brothers with the rubber grips for shots. And if you with me, mama, rub on your tits and whatnot. I'm from the school of the hard knocks. You must not let outsiders violate our blocks in my plot. Let's stick up the world and split it 50-50, Let's take the dough and stay real checky, And set the Chris and get pissy, flowing beneath like the memory of my brother Biggie, baby. You know it's hell when I come through. The life and times of Sean Carter, brother, volume 2. Y'all brothers get ready. It's the hard knock life for us. It's the hard knock life for us. Instead of treated, we get tricked. Instead of kisses, we get kicked. It's the hard knock life. It's the hard knock life for us. It's the hard knock life for us. Instead of treated, we get tricked. Instead of kisses, we get kicked. It's the hard knock life.
Hey, everybody. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate you guys. You guys rock. So I'm going to welcome some of you guys first, and we're going to get into all sorts of research and content. It's going to be a fabulous show. I decided to do this show early because today is my birthday, and normally I would do the show, roughly, 9 Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And sometimes I do them like at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. But that's going to conflict, obviously, with the time I had allocated for steak dinner. How cool is that? So, yeah, I didn't want that to conflict. Wanted to join you guys, instead of gaming it up right now or wherever the case be. Crypto and research with the community. It's pretty cool. All right. Let's welcome you guys because it's so cool to see you guys here. And let's start off with the first comment. It comes from KOU. It says, first, I would highlight your comment, but sometimes YouTube has a hissy fit about that. So sorry about that. It's just because your avatar. But nonetheless, I don't personally have issues with it. But anyway, thank you, KOU. Tony Parker. I don't know if this is Tony Parker from the San Antonio Spurs back in the day, but it's not. Well, that's a cool name. Number 2, welcome. Jasmi AI coming from X. He says more Jasmi Alpha. Yeah, everything for the most part is going to have to get to that point. So this is kind of a WrestleMania show. We haven't had those in a while. But I appreciate you being here, Jasmi AI. All right, let's also welcome Patrick Collier, OG member for 11 months. In reality, it's a lot more than that, right? Happy birthday. Thanks, man. Appreciate that, Patrick Collier. Really, really appreciate that. And Francisco Dennis Leal's in the house. Follow Francisco over on TikTok. If you want to drop your TikTok, he's got a lot of clips even from me, which I know I need to do my own TikToks, but, always support those that are in this space. Help his TikTok grow. He has a lot of awesome clips from so many people, not just myself, but, so many people in the XRP community and Quant, anything utility. It's pretty cool. Hey, thanks, John. Appreciate that. Let's read a few more. XRP Goats in the house. I just turned 44 today, believe it or not. So I know some people are like, you should share that. I don't care. I'm actually proud to be born when I was born. Class 1999 for high school, that is. College is a different story. Anyway. Yeah, man. Patrick, I miss you too. Candy, thank you. Welcome. So many nice comments from you guys. FOTD. Thanks, you guys. Very, very nice. Gaffney, thanks for being here. I see your comments all the time. Don't think I ever dismiss it. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Utility Maximus, just going to welcome a few more of you guys. We'll kick it into what we have. But yeah, from one Maximus to another Utility Maximus. Good to see you. All right, Bernard B. Thank you. I always recognize your avatar as well. You guys got lots of good comments. So I'm just going to kind of fast track through some because it's going to be hard to read them all, right? So let's see here. We have so many guys. Guillermo, King of the Ings, if I'm pronouncing that right. Probably not. David Whittington, Cool Cat Cosmos. I'll highlight his. I have to highlight Cool Cat. It's been a while since I highlighted the Cool Cat, right? So just want to point that out real quick before we get into all the other stuff. If I can find you. I don't know. He's here somewhere. There he is. Good to see you, Cool Cat. Appreciate that. All right. Yeah. You want to see more of that Andreessen Horowitz. Well, you said it's not like that, but that's all right. Yes, Guten Tag. Welcome to Maximus Crudo. We're going to share more XRP Alpha, more findings from Andreessen Horowitz. He's going to release the Netscape version 3.0. All right. Got to get back into everything else. You like that, huh? Anyway, all right. That's good stuff. So we're going to do a few disclaimers. Obviously, BTCC exchange been around since 2011. They have had no major incidents. So check it out. And if you're afraid of anything major happening, what are you going to do? I don't like Tether. Well, guess what? Swap at USDC. I don't like the exchange. All right. Well, then get yourself a decent wallet discount. Links are in the description, and move it off the exchange into cold storage. Well, I didn't plan that out like I said, but I might just go ahead and do that because at the end of the day, I'm going to enjoy watching Maximus Crypto as I dip my paste picante sauce and put it all over my tortilla chips because this sauce is made in New York City. New York City? Get a rope. Remember those commercials? Yeah, no. Get sidetracked. We're going to first do is just point out a few couple things, all right? So I don't want people to get wrecked any more than the next guy. So I'm just going to do a few little disclaimers before we get into that. First thing is this. Once you go over to BTCC and you sign up with that QR code at the very top right of the screen, well, of course, within about a minute and a half, 3 minutes tops, you're going to get some free USDT. And with that also said, you can, for example, choose to do leverage trading. Now, if you don't know what the heck you're doing, then don't do it. But here's how I would go about it if I were you. First thing I would point out is to go over here and go to basically where it says towards the top, futures. And you're going to click on what says demo trading, okay? Like it says, practice some of this, right? So like it says, make your first trade. This is what's going to come up, okay? And they have tutorials and whatnot. So after you get comfortable with that, then from there, maybe decide not to go all in, like, I don't know, I say all in, but like hundreds or thousands of dollars. No, like start off small, get comfortable with it. Once you get comfortable, guess what? You want to do things like, I'll show you real quick. You're going to want to follow guys like All the Money by Q. But before you do that, you could actually do some other things, okay? And what I mean by that is you can do this. And like it says, futures copy trading. And it's funny how All the Money by Q comes up first. So actually, I'll just show you that real quick. So the reason why they highlight him, I can't blame him. It's because he has over a 92.95% success rate, and that nobody even comes close. Nobody comes close at all, okay? Already 266, I think, of the max 500 on copy trading. You can follow him. So be part of the 500 before it becomes over 500 if you choose to do so. The reason I mentioned him is because I like his success rate. I mean, 90% or higher is pretty awesome, to say the least. Now, there's a little bit more about this. And, like there's copy trading tutorial. Actually, I'll just take you there. And you can, check out all this stuff if you choose to do so. There's this. Let me just jump back. I keep saying I'm logging out of my other devices for security reasons. But you can watch some of these videos if you choose to do so. What is copy trading, benefits of copy trading, and so on. But there's people killing it, obviously. All right. And so I've always wanted some of that now money instead of just long term. We have so many long term. How many times have we talked about long term? Now we have some research to get into to talk about some of this long term. But I just want to share that with you guys. You know, the way I look at it is do the demo trading first. Ain't going to cost you anything. And when you get more comfortable, obviously do copy trading and follow all of the money by Q. And just in case you didn't see him earlier, here he basically is. They showcase him on the top middle of BTCC.com. All right. So just wanted to highlight that for just a brief moment. I'll come back. And yeah, pretty cool to share that. Now, I'm just going to read a couple more comments because I do want to welcome some of you guys. Yes, by all means, smash the like button. Consider it, right? If you're new, you want me to earn it, I get that. I do appreciate that. But if you're a regular or OG, hopefully you smash it, okay? If you could hold one ISO coin, which one would it be? I can't really answer that because I have XRP and QNT tied for my number one. So maybe that will answer some of your questions, okay? So let's see who else we got. We got David Murphy with XRP buying USDC. The market cap will be 25 billion. When you look at ETH 31 billion market cap, it's easy to see XRP 1,000 price at those numbers alone. Yeah, another thing I want to point out was what Smoke pointed out earlier. He says, and this is just a recent post, literally 15, 20 minutes ago. He pointed out that if XRP just does a 20x from here, well, basically speaking, that would surpass BTC's market cap. So I'm glad you're looking at some of these things, and thanks for sharing that. Welcome, David Murphy. Always try to welcome people you haven't normally seen. M. Ali, welcome, welcome. Share where that's from if you want. And yeah, I'm pretty much with you for the most part on that. Like, I have XRP QT tied for number one, and then I have XLM at number two. You know, yeah, thank you, everybody. I really do appreciate that. Let's read this real quick. Chris Fortner, thank you, thank you. Thanks for the demo. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I will have a great day. I'm having a great day already. All right, Francisco Densalud, he was excited yesterday to see that Securitize added DYOR to his tokenization partnership ecosystem. Absolutely. Well, I think the key enabler to that is the mandates. So, you know, understand there's a difference between mandates that are obviously going to happen no later than November. I don't see that getting delayed this time. All the other ones got delayed previously, but I don't really see that getting delayed. If it does get delayed, I mean, shoot, you know, I'm not a fortune teller. But as far as the system to adopt it worldwide, I mean, I kind of look at it from the perspective of, you know, mass adoption, like what becomes a household name, possibly 2030 and so on. For a lot of people, that's the catalyst that they're waiting for. There will also be people who say, you know, the prices of this stuff isn't doing much. We're not at mass adoption. Of course, it's not going to do much. So, all right. Welcome to Fishing Joe Camo. Let's get into what we have. I'll double check the other screen, make sure I'm not missing anything key important. All right. Yeah, we do have some SHX, Tony Parker, a little bit later from Tammy Camp. I had to chop up the video so no one get hit with the copyright. So, anyway. All right, so we're going to do now is, since a few more people connected, this will be a nice little thing to share with everybody, just as a little bit more of a, I don't know, call it a greeting, call it whatever you want to call it, basically. But at the end of the day, it's kind of fun, right? It's kind of fun to have some of this going on, right? So I mentioned all this stuff about, obviously, like leverage and all that. Well, see it for yourself.
hits, hot, pop, that trunk. Trouble's here, watch how it comes. Dumping vibe, about me and strong. Selling that one, put head on my beats. I was flipping goods with Master D. Say, pass that vibe. Deal the girls just wanna feel alive. Broken run, got green by a ton. Jamming with my hand up her dress like, I make a move, get my haze in my lungs. Doing the butt, if you plan to stunt. Oh, this is how we do. We make a move like the food up in the club. This is how we do. Nobody do it like us. Show some love. This is how we do. We make the move like the fool up in the club. This is how we do. Nobody do it like us. Show some love.
All right, let's get into what we have today for you and why you're obviously here for a lot of it. Going to get into some new announcements. Some of you guys seen some of this, but I would say for the majority of you, you probably haven't. And the first thing I want to pull up is actually from Lori Reports. Shout out to Michael Cornwell for some of this info. And basically speaking, as I mute my phone, I'm going to share this with you. So she states this, and I think it's important to get into some of these announcements. President Donald Trump says, basically speaking, that the United States negotiated a, quote, total reset with China during trade talks. A total reset. Let that sink in. XRP. Well, some other key things, right? But in the announcement from President Trump, he says a very good meeting, at least then, with China and Switzerland. Many things discussed, much agreed to a total reset. And of course, like it also mentions, negotiated in a friendly but constructive manner. We want to see for the good of both China and the United States an opening up of China to American business. Great progress to be made. Of course, he shared that 2 days ago on my grandmother's birthday. Shout out to my grandma, Myrtle Stanley, 116 years old, if she was still here. But, you know, she's in a better place. All right, a little bit more into this and why it matters. Even from CMC, you see earlier today that they had this announcement from Satoshi Club breaking the United States will temporarily cut tariffs on Chinese goods to 30% from 145% for 90 days. China will lower tariffs on U.S. goods from 10% to 125%, I should say, over the same period. BTC is trading over 105K, and it's been kind of fluctuating from 104 to 105. So I take you further into this, and why we're paying attention to this is because I want to point out the key things when we talk about all of the lingo. Enter in Gilbert Verdian with his recent announcement. Now, again, why point some of this out? Well, he says specifically programmable pounds, check. Programmable euros, check. Programmable dollars, is what's going to be next. Now, of course, critics will say absolutely not. We're not going to have programmable money here in the United States. Actually, are you sure about that? Are you willing to make a bet that that is a certain thing? Because when I show you some evidence a little bit later, even in Congress, with certain House resolutions, bills being introduced, you might want to reevaluate that particular statement. Now, of course, we understand that Elizabeth Warren's basically was going bat-ish crazy lately when it came to the whole thing of some of these bills not getting passed, but let's get further into this and why it matters. So pull this up. I want to get to this next thing because, again, even when you go back to this statement of seeing what Gilbert Verdian posted in regard to programmable dollars next, and again, he posted that May 7th, just a few days ago, brings us back to this, and this time, President Trump. He says the idea that the BRICS countries are trying to move away from the dollar while we stand by and watch is over. We require a commitment from these countries that they will neither create a new BRICS currency nor back any other currency to replace the mighty US dollar, or they will face 100% tariffs and should expect to say goodbye to selling into the wonderful United States economy. They can go find another, quote, sucker. There is no chance that the BRICS will replace the US dollar in international trade, and any country that tries should wave goodbye to America. Now, granted, this is when he was still technically president-elect, but it's still worthy of a mention, November 30th. All right, follow me on this timeline to the now. Gilbert Verdian reposted this, and he states, well, I should say, the sharing from Quant Network says, in today's dynamic economy, agility is crucial. Businesses are navigating complex markets, managing multiple currencies, and also basically facing stringent regulatory requirements. Consequently, current payment systems are failing to keep pace with regulatory requirements. Consequently, current pay systems are failing to keep pace with innovation. This is where programmability comes in. Discover why programmable payments present a transformative opportunity for financial transactions, of course, in that particular article. Now, I'm going to play this. It doesn't really share anything in regard to sound or music, but even on this, what stood out for me is this quote. And in the quote from Mark Hargreaves from the Quant Network, I wanted to point this out to you because he mentions automation. And we know that when it comes to Quant Flow, well, they have a key thing that they're sharing in regard to their new product. That new product is referred to as literally Quant Flow. Interesting to see the statement that he makes here of automation brings benefits to consumers and businesses alike, streamlining routine payments, minimizing manual effort, and offering better financial control. What kind of control? What kind of release of that control? So they pull furthermore into this and the gatherings, brought me over to this from the Quant Network. A lot of times people don't go into all the nitty gritty about this, and it's basically quant.network/associations. I promise you, we'll tie in so many things regard to the Swift update, ISO, XRPs, you name it. But it's the associations. At quant.network/associations, it mentions specifically about they are members of various associations worldwide. They're working towards the future of money. And with that also said, it's interesting to see the highlight, because the highlight shows E-Engine. If you're not aware of it, Engine is the new name for Velocity, the fintech hub launched by the United Kingdom's Investment Association, IA, back in 2018. They, of course, work with 140 plus fintech firms and partners in the investment value chain. But the bottom line is Engine connects best-in-class fintech innovators like Quant to forward-looking investment managers. So this key term about investment managers, even when I get to like the ZBCN coverage later on in this live session, you're going to see why the term of investment managers is so crucial. To take you over to this is how we tie in the big things that are going on in the background. Because from a newly mentioned article from the iaengine.com, well, it highlights Orbit launches free AI-powered trade tariff monitor for investment professionals navigating global market shifts. Now, again, I don't know if you're talking to your broskies and your sisters in the community, which is awesome. But this part, this is how we tied in everything from the beginning of this outline. So if anything, lock and load, pay close attention because you might miss it. With that also said, I want to share why I'm sharing this with you. And basically speaking, this was mentioned towards the end of last month, but it pounds home everything that's going on in the world. April 17th, 2025. Orbit launches, of course, that free AI-powered trade tariff monitor, but it's the innovative platform. Who is part of this innovative platform for all this when it comes to tariffs, keeping tabs on companies and countries in real time, critical intelligence, like it says at the bottom, unprecedented trade policy shifts. And I was talking about not the flip of the switch, but the shift of the switch. Orbit, leading AI provider of financial data analysis automation, again, automation, announced the launch of Orbit Trade Tariff Monitor. And again, I think this is all worth getting into because when you see that the platform utilizes Orbit's advanced AI tech to analyze news, filings, and transcripts, well, this is over 150,000 plus companies. That is nothing to bat your eye at. In over 80 countries, providing real-time assessment of how trade tensions affect business operations and market performance. All right, that's incredibly interesting. So I take you further down this rabbit hole, if you want to call it. I saw this again from, of course, this particular site. And the site is actually an X post from Max Avery. Shout out to Michael Corn once again, because this is from May 8th. The XDC network just signed, if you're not aware with it, the whole MiCA Crypto Alliance. And this adds this experience to Europe's push for a clear regulatory framework. It's a thread that's worth getting into because when you see Zinfin XDC tag there, and you see Hedera and Ripple, and even Aptos, you kind of have an idea of how it all comes together. I will read some of these key things because he goes on to mention that there is what's referred to as confusion between companies and regulators can leads to basically mistrust, mixed signals, whole lot of missed opportunities, and what the MiCA Crypto Alliance aims to solve. Now, I'll point this out. Didn't do that well, and that's okay. Stablecoin discussion, sometimes people find it incredibly boring. But for the hardcore enthusiasts, they realize it's not a boring topic at all. Because you are talking about some of the biggest players in the biggest space. Where I'm going with that is, recently I did a collaboration with the one and only Rue Black at Black Rue. Give him a follow on his channel. We discuss a hypothetical scenario about, for example, Ripple purchasing at some point Tether. Now, some people say pump the brakes on that, Max. You know, just because they're trying to potentially go for USDC doesn't mean that will happen. Correct. And I get where you're coming from. There's a code word at the end, which I call the third step, but that would allow them to not only monopolize the stablecoin market. Oh man, I mean, it would be game changer because we know when it comes to USDC alone, that's 28% of the overall stablecoin market. Let's get further into this. If you think about MiCA in itself, and if you studied MiCA, you will come to the conclusion that that would be game changer even for Tether and all the doubters who say that's the next black swan event. Ripple could get that job done for them, especially if they could somehow get that deal done for the future. And I know it's highly speculative, but there's a lot of things that were speculation that came into fruition. As I pull up more about this, I want to bring it to you. I want to pull up more about the whole topic of what you're seeing here. So on part 3 of 13, it says, with founding members Hedera, Ripple, and Aptos, this group pulls together top crypto names to build practical standards around Europe's new rules. Without that kind of teamwork, every company is basically on its own, creating bloated legal processes, trying to work out how rules apply. It's messy and it's holding the whole space back. Now, you may be wondering, why am I reading all this verbatim? He hits every single point that's worth being shared. The Alliance is focused on solving 4 major pain points: lack of coordination, knowledge, gaps, unclear guidance, and the high cost of staying compliant. Pooling resources helps everyone work smarter, not just harder. XDC Network brings something pretty rare, a blockchain setup that's open and transparent. For example, public networks also gives businesses the control and privacy they usually need. XDC's focus on real areas like global trade, cross-border payments, and tokenizing real-world assets. These are highly regulated fields where getting it wrong can be, of course, very expensive. And this part, I'm going to go further down actually, is this. It says, the past decade of legal uncertainty has caused lots of problems for that industry, or the industry in a whole. And that kind of fallout has kept a lot of people from getting involved in crypto. I couldn't agree more. But by teaming up for groups like this, companies can help shape rules that actually work for users, investors, and innovators as a smart long-term play. With XDC joining in, the group gains a partner that's already doing the tough work of making a blockchain viable in regulated industries like finance and global trade. 2 more points to get into before we share a little bit more. Europe could stand to gain significant market share of the crypto industry if sensible regulations are put in place, or it could push innovation away if the rules go too far. Collaborations like this one help strike the right balance. And of course, what it says on the bottom, XDC's move sends a clear message. Forward-thinking companies aren't running from regulation, but rather they are stepping in to help shape it by helping draft the rules that will define how blockchain works in the real economy. Combine that with standards like the ISO TC 307 standard, which basically makes it so that's the foundation for building on blockchain. Combine this all together, and you have a ship that hasn't sailed, but when it does sail, watch out. As we get further into this, April 3rd, 2025, enter in Calmer Point, because this again comes from the AI engine. Remember how we talked about formerly known as Velocity? So Calmer Point enhances analytics as a service platform. Think about that for a second. With quantum resistant security, delivering unmatched analytics protection. If you're paying close attention to this might be one of the biggest outlines I've ever covered, and you're not even aware of what's going on in the background. I say that politely. I don't mean to ruffle any feathers here, but it's a terminology. This highlight of defense to data, military-grade quantum security democratizes advanced analytics for businesses of all sizes. I did a recent outline with Channing Harrell. By the way, follow him, right, at King Channing. We discussed recently the whole thing of integration. In fact, his video already premiered, and on my end, that same video is going to premiere in roughly an hour and 10 minutes. But what's important is, in the discovery, you have for the first time an example of a company, and their name, by the way, is called Whippy, like whip up integration. The point is, in the visuals, you see real people with real businesses talk about the automation. Then we show with evidence and research Quant Network, Hedera, with what? AI agents. Combine that with, for example, with Quant Flow, the new product that's not just Overledger, right? We have Overledger and Quant Flow. You can see how this all comes together. Let's get back to why this is important. So when you see the terms of military-grade quantum security, I mean, for me, you think of things like Constellation Day. I think of, for example, Hedera, and even Quant for that matter. But from defense to data, having this be democratized for analytics for all businesses of all sizes, again, check out that video when it comes out, or just check out Channing's video. Help him out for all I care, because I'm glad to see brothers in this space that I'm networked with, have some of you guys follow some of them and so on. Be supportive. So as we get further into this, I want you guys to check this out. Excuse me. Sean S. posted this a while back. He says, Secretary of Defense, right? You guys know who he is, the new guy, right? Old Pete over here, right? Chooses H-bar. Well, Hedera, really? So power technology to enable quantum-resistant drone infrastructure. The company that embedded Hedera's tech into a satellite and sent it to space via SpaceX is now implementing it at the core of the Defense Department. If this doesn't catch your attention, I don't know what will. The technology will be implemented in compliance with the DoD and Autonomous System Air Interoperability Profile, RAS-AIOP, under the Blue UAS program. Now that sounds pretty major, does it not? We're going to get more into this. It says here, H-bar itself, as in Hedera, was created by two of the most respected scientists at the United States Air Force. And of course, when we talk about the Air Force plug and defense, of course, people will think of Constellation Day, but this quote, in my opinion, pounds home everything. And here it is. As security threats evolve, professional drones used by public agencies, law enforcement, and military require advanced cryptographic protection to ensure secure communications, data integrity, and operational resilience. SEAL SQ has established itself as a long-term security provider for the drone industry, offering trusted identity management and end-to-end encryption for drones deployed in high-stakes environments. And of course, you see here Department of Defense, SpaceX, You get the gist. Now, this, of course, was posted February 14th, but a lot of people already seen this. But again, if you're new, you're going to see how this all comes into fruition. Again, a little bit more into this before we take a break and kick into the comments and some other key things. I want to also point this out because I did mention Constellation DAG. Few have ever taken 15 minutes of research, reading to know what's unique, of course, about DAG. How, for close to 6 years, they have been competing for and winning United States government contracts. Unique architecture combined with incredibly low fee structure, all running on multiple layers and quantum-proof security, unlimited, for example, capacity combined with increasing speed. It's the project you need to quit swiping past. Well, teach his own, right? Some of you guys don't hold this, and that's okay. But again, when you see some of the robust connections, you can see how it all comes together, even with what? Their global layer 0, right? We're not just talking about Polkadot here, okay? Nothing against Polkadot. But again, you see how it all comes together. I like the concept of mind maps. It's not really a mind map, but even you see side at the bottom, Oracle. We know about Oracle's infrastructure and that partnership with Quant. We know about Oracle with JP Morgan. Then when you get further into the next page, you see, for example, Department of Government Efficiency. Would these technologies be used at a federal level? I think the answer is yes. And even though it's blurry here, again, I didn't take this picture, you see how it's all orchestrated. Federal Reserve, kicking it down to Treasury Department, United States Department of Education, and even with the SEC. Take to the last part, you see the partner ecosystem. Yes, with Constellation, Microsoft, IBM, NASA, Homeland Security, you name it. Big, big deal to say the least. Now, here's something that, in my opinion, might be very well, as I would like to point out, the smoking gun, okay? So, shout out to this person, Florence of Arabia, okay? She points out this, and I think it's very important to get into it just briefly, because obviously we're talking about this ISO update. She states, in order for ISO assets to start moving in value, precious metals should undergo reevaluation. For example, XRP, XLM, XDC are white hats military blockchains. Now you may be like, I don't know the reference of what you're talking about here. Well, I'll blow it up for you just in case you're one of those people who are like, I don't know. Sounds too speculative to me. So in the documentation, where I will show you where this kind of linked to or came from, it says here in this, in order for rainbow coins, this is interesting because it says, for example, quantum financial system. So in order for rainbow coins, bonds, or ISO 222 assets to start moving in value, physical precious metals must first undergo a reassessment. Once the new assessment is defined, the weight of compliance with Basel III plus Bretton Woods III will bring legitimacy to everything else. Triggering, some people say the trigger in itself is the flip of the switch or pulling the trigger, call it whatever you want, right? Triggering ISO 222 regulation. So we're talking about mandates. Well, mandates, you have to have regulation before. And I think that's the key driver, for example, for August, or I should say July, and of course, with what Trump is potentially going to do in August. So it says gold standard asset-backed currencies, physical and digital assets. Mentions, for example, some of these about CBDCs. But again, right below that says digital assets backed by precious metals, gold, silver, copper, platinum, etc., etc. Then rainbow coin, treasure, rainbow banknotes tracked, instant digital payments via QFS, quantum financial system. Then the part below, it kind of sounds like doom and gloom, right? Death in dollar, pound, and so on. That part about death in dollar, pound, and euro, I am going to address that because some people are like, geez, this sounds scary. Well, I decided to use that lens, and when I used that lens, it forwarded me over to this. And it's shout out to David Krause. He is an emeritus professor over at the finance department of Marquette University. And he wrote this abstract about regulatory recalibration, U.S. banking agencies shift towards crypto integration. Again, Will Fix and I talked about this. Shani Harrell and I talked about this. It's called the shift of the switch. This is page 1 of 10. But again, just in case you're not aware of it, an emeritus professor is a retired professor who maintains an honorary title with their former university recognizing significant contributions and achievements. All right, so this guy's sharing some key things, and some of his key writing recently, as of May 8th, got shared over on the CLS Blue Sky blog. That's with Columbia Law School, by the way. And that law school has a blog on corporations and the capital markets. How many times do we talk about capital markets ecosystems? Now, one thing I want to point out is this. He mentions specifically this highlight. While not a wholesale embrace of the crypto ecosystem, the coordinated action marked a notable recalibration of supervisory posture, opening new pathways for innovation in financial services. Think about that for a second. As we get further into it, well, remember how we talked about what would happen with Congress? Hopefully this is big enough for you guys. It says here specifically, and actually I'll just, I'll keep it there, otherwise I'm going to lose my mark. So just follow with me. It says from the United States Congress, they are considering design considerations. I know, sounds scary. It says a CBDC would allow holders to store value, make payments digitally, and would be backed by the Fed, as in the case for physical currency. This part, I'm not going to read like all 100 pages of this. I will just read this paragraph, so bear with me. It says, but other features are unresolved. Crypto generally records transfers on public, decentralized, or distributed ledgers, stored using blockchain tech. Often, individual accounts are protected using cryptography or for the reasons of, what you see here. But for background, there's this link to cryptocurrency selected policy issues, but it states it is unclear which of these features would be desirable in a CBDC or whether a CBDC might be built upon existing payment systems instead. Built upon. If you think about it, the overledger is literally what? Something that's built upon existing blockchains. It's blockchain agnostic. So this part says from end to end, or I should say from end user perspective, CBDC proposals range from a payment system similar to the status quo to one that is fundamentally different. At one end of the spectrum of proposals, a CBDC accessible only to banks may differ only slightly from the current system, given that wholesale payment systems are already digital. At the other end, proposals for consumers to be able to hold CBDCs and accounts at the Fed would fundamentally change the role of the Fed and its relationship with consumers and banks. The Fed's report envisioned a middle ground where end users would access CBDC and related services through financial institutions. Thus, depending on its attributes, a domestic CBDC could potentially compete with crypto, notably stablecoins, foreign CBDCs, private payment platforms, or banks. CBDC proponents differ as to which of these they would like it to compete with. Think about that for a moment. CBDCs are more likely to compete with crypto as a payment means for legal commerce than their other current uses. For example, the speculative investments or as payment means for illicit activities. Now, I decided to jump to this bottom part because there is issues for Congress in that regard. And here it basically is somewhat highlighted in gray. CBDC's initiatives in other countries could have implications for the United States. For example, some members of Congress have expressed concerns that if a major central bank successfully develops a CBDC that can be used for cross-border transactions, the use of the US dollar globally could decline, challenging the status of the US dollar as the world's dominant reserve currency and potentially make it easier to skirt US financial sanctions. Again, why point out any of this? Just in case you missed it, the reason why I'm pointing this out is back to this. Because for Gilbert Verdian to post this just a few days ago, I think it pounds home the whole understanding of where the United States is positioned right now. Keep that also in mind that Gilbert Verdian, as we know, still sits, apparently speaking, according to his resume, maybe it needs to be updated, that he is still part of the Federal Reserve as a chair, giving his own advice and so on. And he's been there, since 2017, 2018 in regard to, the task force, the Fed chair Federal Reserve Task Force and so on. So I think he still has that plug, to say the least, when it comes to the United States. There's more about this before we kick it into wrapping this up, because when we get into the next part, well, even as we speak, from House Resolution 1919, you see here the whole thing of an anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act. That's from the 119th Congress. It's going from 2025 to 2026. But Representative Tom Emmer, Republican from Minnesota, mentioned this, or introduced this, I should say, all the way back in March of this year. But again, this was introduced. And, of course, the last update was placed on the union calendar on May 6th. So this will be interesting to follow this and see what happens in regard to it all. Now, before we finish everything, because I know this is quite the deep dive, right? And I do appreciate you guys following this, because this is what I do. It says, we've unleashed the greatest asset, their data. Now, if you've been following closely about this, this is why we're pointing this out. This is from CaliMirrorPoint.com. Clearpoint. CaliMirrorPoint. I don't know. Tomato. But it's who they're connected to. So trusted by clients to deliver data analytics and data visualization. You better believe you recognize all of these companies for the most part. How many times do you see them mentioned with your Ripple XRPs, all the big players, right? JP Morgan, LSEG, Centra, Deutsche Bank, HSBC, Royal Bank of Scotland, BNY Mellon, on and on and on and on and on and on. Well, here's where I love using some AI. Some of you guys don't like me using AI, but it's a helpful tool. I'm going to give you a summary of the connections without making this another hour or two. The confirmed connection is World Vision. That wasn't necessarily shown on the previous page, but it's there. They use Stellar for transparent aid distribution. There's possible connections, speculative, but no direct evidence, as we know of HSBC, Deutsche Bank, JP Morgan, so on and so forth, for their blockchain initiatives like Corda, Onyx, Finality, Hyperledger could align with Quant Network, Hedera, or Algorand. This other one of LME and OLAM, their supply blockchain efforts could intersect with Hedera and Algorand. Again, I understand it's all speculative, but what I think is important here is, like it says, there's this consortium-based DLTs. Even with Corda, we know with XRP and XDC that those are like pretty much settlement tokens, especially XDC, right? And then recent discoveries, even with Smoke's research, we found out we have to include XRP in that. As I take you further into this and why it matters, if you go to CaliMirrorPoint, I'm just going to call it CaliMirrorPoint, so much easier to say, .com/AI-machine-learning, it points out this. It says those organizations that can harness the power of this technology will be at the forefront of this revolution. CaliMirrorPoint can help empower your organization to embrace the future. So you may be wondering about all this stuff. I don't really understand the real connection. Again, I think that this is big, and to have Quant Network connected with these guys, I think speaks volumes, because like it says, harness your data, understand your data, trust your data, leverage your data. The whole point of Overledger in itself is to do what? Is to leverage the existing tech of all these particular projects built on so many different blockchains and so on. But if we're going to harness that data, then how do we harness that data through things like Quant Flow? As I pull up more about this, I like what's mentioned here, because, again, getting more into it, when we talk about, for example, CaliMirrorPoint, well, even Grok agrees that interoperable data sharing would be across financial ecosystems. Through what? Interoperability. You would need something that's blockchain agnostic. But CaliMirrorPoint could very well use Overledger to connect financial institutions, private DLTs for trade finance and security settlement. Back to everything you saw recently in regard to what Trump mentioned, and everything you recently saw in regard to all the recent announcements. Because with public blockchains or legacy databases, Overledger's APIs create gateways that would secure, standardize, and create a mechanism to exchange across multiple systems, ensuring real-time access for consistent data. And here's an example. CaliMirrorPoint, for example, could facilitate a client's ability to aggregate market data from multiple blockchain-based platforms. Does that not match up with the gentleman that was doing that whole thread about XDC? I think the answer is yes. So you have your traditional systems, and that would improve, I should say, analytics for portfolio optimization. Now, here's another thing I want to point out. Tokenized assets and analytics. Overledger, as we know, allows the issuance and management of digital assets across multiple blockchains, such as tokenized bonds and equities. Cali Mirrorpoint could leverage Overledger to track and analyze these assets' performance across networks, providing clients with insights into the market trends, liquidity, or risk exposure. This could involve deploying Overledger smart tokens, which are QRC, right? We know that those are basically QRC20, right? To create interoperable financial instruments using Quant Connect to monitor their behavior without needing deep blockchain coding experience or expertise. Yes, that's the answer. That's why it's so important to recognize their inbuilt platform tools, because they are already built with those templates to be no code, if you will, or if your developer 3 lines of code. All right, before, again, we just totally wrap it up. If you ever wondered about some of this stuff, Engine back in 2019 shared a snapshot of Orbit sentiment. The only time they mentioned anything about Quant, but it's not the Quant you're thinking of, okay? I wish it was Quant Network, but still, I think the terminology is interesting. It says, white box solution back in 2019 extracts alpha out of real-time news. Well, who's currently doing some of this stuff with Quant Flow, with automation, right? So they cite Quant Lab. Quant Lab's been around for a long time. That is not the Quant network you're thinking of, right? But what is interesting here is machine learning, unstructured data, and so on. To me, this ages incredibly well because it's how this all came into fruition. Now, here's one of the main moments you've been waiting for. We said that there would be an update from Swift. There is. Swift mentions what happens when coexistence ends. We know that when it comes to MT messaging and MX, because MX is ISO 222, that coexistence period, it ends as far as coexistence. So the end of coexistence period approaches, excuse me, hold on a second here. Had to clear my throat. Didn't want to create into a Crypto Hulk moment. No offense to Crypto Hulk. Anyway, as the end of coexistence approaches, the community is gearing up for a significant milestone, of course, in this journey. To ensure business continuity during this transaction, they deploy selected short-term contingency measures to help institutions finalize their migrations. All right, so this is interesting. It's this terminology, inflow translation service. Think about that for a moment. Inflow translation service. This service will remain available after the 22nd of November 2025, but will become chargeable for payment instructions. Okay, that's interesting, because even with that, it's like, I decided to ask Grok. I said, all right, Grok, with that said, would there be an overlap with Quant's Overledger or Quant Flow? Well, Grok kind of agrees. They say, for example, for financial institutions heavily reliant on Swift's network, Quant Flow could complement Swift's inflow translation service by providing additional interoperability with non-Swift systems. And think about that for a minute. Domestic real-time gross settlements, or DLT networks, for example, an FI could use Swift service for CBPR plus messages in Quant Flow to integrate ISO 222 compliant payments with blockchain-based CBDC platform. So for one, it's kind of like Gilbert Verdian's giving us little nuggets. Right? He can't come out and say it. But to me, if you take the deeper dive, which we are, come on. Have you not been paying attention? I think you are. I think literally, if you wrap your mind around it, the writing's on the wall. Look at this. They do mention, however, QuantFlow could also compete with Swift service for FIs seeking a single vendor agnostic. Geez, isn't Quant blockchain agnostic? Isn't their wallet with overwallet wallet agnostic? My goodness. So vendor agnostic solution to handle payment modernization needs, especially if they operate across multiple networks. So Quant could also compete with Swift. Are you not bullish enough on Quant? Wow. All right, that's incredibly interesting. All right, the next part I want to get into is this bottom part, and this is the conclusion. Quant Network's QuantFlow does include functionality akin to an inflow translation service as referenced by Swift, in that it can translate legacy payment messages, for example, MT, to ISO 222 formats and enrich data to ensure compliance and interoperability. However, Quant Flow is not merely a translation service. It's kind of like it's Billy Mays here. But wait, we have more. It is a broader, more versatile platform. Are you kidding me? Broader and more versatile. Wow, as you guys would say, and try to get hyped. Let's go, right? That supports interoperability across Swift, domestic real-time growth settlements, distributed ledger technologies, and emerging digital finance use cases like CBDCs and instant payments. Say what you want. There's a problem that exists with the United States not getting bored with the digital dollar. I think, if anything, you can see the writing on the wall. Quant Network is the solution. Tab it more. While Swift's inflow translation service is a Swift-specific transition tool focused on CBDR Plus and the November 2025 deadline, QuantFlow is a strategic, I just love the terminology, Grok even loves Quant apparently, vendor-agnostic solution designed for long-term payments monetization. Thus, my goodness, QuantFlow can be considered an inflow translation service. You saw it here first, everybody. Boil it, mash it, stick it in a stew. In the context of ISO 222 adoption, but it goes beyond Swift service and scope, flexibility, and application. For financial institutions deciding between the two, the choice depends on the reliance on Swift's network versus their need for multi-network future-proof solution. I'll come back in the frame to wrap this up completely, I should say, because I know there's a lot to take in. Here's the bottom line. We know about the test pilots. We know about the regulated liability network. Been there and done that. We know about all the participants for the most part. You may be new to all this. We also know about the regulated settlement network, RSN. So we know the Ripple plug to that. We know the Stellar plug to that, your Hedera's and so on. But say what you want to be at the forefront, to be a legitimate competitor to Swift. People state that Ripple replaced Swift. Yes, I think so. Swift is upgrading to ISO 222. They introduced ISO 222 in 2004. Ironically, the same year that Ripple technically formed, right? You know, had an old name back then. But whatever the case be, we can see, if anything, by taking the deep dive, the research, which we just did, and how it all comes together. This is why Quant Network is consistently my number one, and XRP is consistently also tied for my number one. I have Stellar right after, and so on. Believe it or not, I have Jasmi at number 3, and we're going to get some Jasmi news here in a bit. But I wanted to bring this to you guys. I know it was quite the deep dive. And again, if you're brand new, hopefully I've earned your like. If you're regular, take the jump. Consider being a subscriber. I more than appreciate you guys, especially on today, my birthday. I could be out doing a lot of other things. What am I doing? I'm with you guys, sharing some of this stuff. So really, really appreciate you guys. I'm going to jump back into the comments now because I kind of need to do so. And I'm also seeing here that we are at 318 on X, 186 on YouTube. So pretty good crowd, and I do appreciate that. Let's jump into some comments. I'm going to check the other screen real quick, make sure I didn't lose everything or anything. And let's see what we got. So I think we had some super chats that came through. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. That was really nice, you guys. I'm going to highlight the first one that came in on the other screen, and it comes from Mentalect. All right, let's highlight his particular super chat. Thanks for the patience as I was going through some of that, brother. Really do appreciate that. So Mentalect with the $10 super chat. He says, happy birthday, Max, and respect. Well, mad respect to you, Mentalect. Thank you for being a long-time supporter of my journey, our journey through thick and thin. You know what I'm talking about, and really glad to have you here. And as always, great intellect from Mentalect. You guys can follow him on X, believe it or not. And if you want to drop your X, Mentalect, by all means, please do so. Always support brothers that are in the space that we're in. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. All right, let's check out the other super chat that came through. Actually, it's not super chat. It's Lord of the Realm. He's been a member for 16 months. Thanks, Lord of the Realm. Good to see you, man. Good to see familiar faces. Really appreciate that. On top of that, I do want to recognize Balaclava, man. Yeah, you're very welcome. Some of you guys are saying happy birthday. Appreciate that. E-Dubs. Squeeze Crew 147 says Max knows his ish. No joke. Thanks, man. And to hear this from Cool Cat, that means a lot. Good to see that, Cool Cat. Boom. All right, let's go further down. let's also recognize the super chat 1:49 p.m. from Danny. He says, "Happy birthday, Max! Visiting from Rob's channel. Thanks for the in-depth research. Awesome. You know, Rob is doing an excellent job. I would say he is the #1 channel when it comes to XCN and especially Jasmi. Looking forward to doing more collaborations with Rob. I got to get a hold of Rob. Also want to introduce some things to him as well that I think would be very beneficial to him and his community. But yeah, at minimum, we need to do another Jasmi collaboration. Who knows? Maybe we'll do some ZBEC, ZBCN, ZBEC, tomato, right? But thank you so much. Really appreciate that, Danny. And for all you guys that may not know Danny, always welcome people that you normally don't see. And again, huge shout out to Rob, Crypto Future 99. If you're not familiar with Rob, again, support people I'm networked with. So, you know, you guys are very familiar with Will Fix, obviously Channing Harrell, you know, Black Rue, aka Rue Black. Haven't done a collaboration with Underdog in a while, but you know, there's people like that. And of course, there's Rob Mass, Crypto Future. There's also Michael Golpe, and there's also Adam of Ibra Finance. So check them all out. Always support brothers in our space. And I also want to give an honorable shout out to Red Pill Pro. He just ticked up, I guess, to 15,000 subscribers. He's a fantastic deep diver. Who knows? I might have to do a collaboration with him, but I want to give him an honorable shout out because he definitely deserves it. He brings straight up alpha and he gets into all the weeds of stuff and so on. So big shout out to Red Pill. All right. Let's go further down. I think there's maybe something else I'm missing. And again, if I skip over some of these comment, it's not on purpose. There's just a lot of comments to get into, and we still have quite a bit to get into. I want to read this from the Crypto Crossword Show. Give him a follow on his particular station or YouTube. Happy birthday, bro. Black Rue Crew here. Y'all inspired me to start my own YouTube channel. All right. Well, awesome. You know what? This is something that we used to do quite a bit. I want to highlight your channel because I like doing this. And let's see here. Crypto Crossroads Show. So let's look that up. Crossroads Show. All right. So here it is. Give this brother a follow. And here it is. And again, thank you for that super chat. So he mentions, happy birthday, bro. Yeah, I already read that. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. I think I have too many tabs up on the screen is what's going on. But nonetheless, yeah, I'll scroll down. And he has, you're off to a good start, man. Let's help this brother get to, I don't know, how about like maybe 150 or 200? That'd be cool. Or if you're watching the replay, maybe we get up higher than that. But he covers, for example, your XRPs, your Velos, Hedera's, and he covers this thing called Light Link Network. All right. He covers Swift Coin. That's so cool. Rue and I have been wanting to do that. But when it comes to Swift blockchain, right, SWFT, not traditional Swift, everybody, it's hard to find constant updates. So I'm just giving you guys a heads up about that. But we are trying to work on something. But awesome. Here's another guy that supports the Swift coin and what they're doing. So very cool to see that. Give him a follow over on his platform. You might learn something. And I like that, you know, the Crypto Crossroads, right? All right. Let's get further into it. Let's pull up this other one. I think thanks, Marie. I just saw you in there. Good to see you, Marie. All right, so let's go further down, making sure I didn't skip anybody else because I don't like when I skip people. I also want to welcome this brother, Sebastian, Utility Crypto Bull. There won't be, listen, I'm misquoting this. To my knowledge, it's every other Tuesday. So we have X spaces because X going to give it to you, right? To my knowledge, the next X space, QNT, XRP, your H bars, right, will be next Tuesday, and that's at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. And we have some great discussion. Myself, obviously Sebastian, you see Channing Harrell there, and we bring in the community. Sometimes we have people come on stage and they share their own point of view perspective, whether they're new, been in the space for a while. It's a really cool thing. So as you guys know, I don't do live shows every day like how it used to be years ago. But, you know, hey, I could try to attend some of these X spaces. So engage with the community and, you know, you can talk. You can't really do that right here unless I give you an invite link. Okay. All right, let's go further down. See if I didn't skip anything. And let's see here. I'm very convincing. Okay. Crypto or Hulk fears the shrinkage. More. Oh, geez. All right. Let's go further down. Selmo Fudd. Hey, brother Selmo in the house, man. Thank you so much. Hopefully your Cleveland Cavaliers, man, I mean that, can pull things around because, I hate when I see, injuries and stuff like that. But Max with a deep dive on Cuban T. Let's effing go, he says. Thank you so much, Selmo. Good to see brother Selmo in the house. And shout out to his Cleveland Cavaliers. Let's try to see if they can turn things around. That'd be cool. I want to see it be a 7-game series or 6 at the minimum. Hopefully, it could turn it around. Thank you again, Selmo, for the $2 super chat and your constant support of this channel. I noticed that you've been, retweeting stuff on X. I know I need to post more on X. It's just I'm already posting a lot already on YouTube. I'm doing like 3 or 4 videos every single day, which is kind of crazy in itself. All right. Let's see here. Edub says he's going to dump his memes, what they posited into Q&T. Oh, okay. All right, let's see here. Max's XRP ISO 222 compliant. Some people want me to say it the right way, right? 20022. I'm always going to call it 222. If it all adds up to the same thing, what difference does it make? Oh, you're not going to be able to sit with the cool kids at the cool lunch table unless you say 20022. All right, well, then I'll sit with all the nerds, say ISO 222. How about that? All right. All right. Hey, Shara Rutledge, always recognize your avatar. Thank you so much. Boom. Really appreciate it. Yeah, you're very welcome too. Very, very welcome. Hey, Yazid, good to see you, man. Always recognize you with your cool looking Dodgers hat. Thank you for also supporting my brother in the space. Black Rue Black in the house, right? Do appreciate that. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate that. It's going to be a good one later today. All right, let's recognize this Canadian super chat. $10 Canadian super chat. For all we know, it might be more or less. Who cares? I'm just grateful either way. Boom. Squeeze Crew, $10 super sticker / super chat. Thank you, Squeeze Crew. Always give a warm welcome to some of these people in this space. It's more than appreciated. Thank you so much. Paul always says this constant slogan, Mr. M with the peace and the fox. Good to see you, Paul. Thank you. Lots of good birthday greetings. You guys were awesome. I do appreciate it. All right, let's read this as well. Hustle hard. Thank you. Jora. Quant is my baby. Met all my goals and stayed the course. That's awesome. As I would say, research trumps FUD 110%, right? Yeah, it's good to see that, especially on my birthday and so on. E-Dubs, you're also from Rob's channel. That's awesome. That's cool. Yeah, it's it's a much needed collaboration coming up. The can't believe I said that one. The something of some young guy. Happy birthday. Hey, good to see you. Some of your comments, and that's cool. Kind of some crazy videos, but that's okay. That's honestly how I feel about some of this stuff. And nowadays, some people feel as though that being a content creator, you don't have, it's like a violation of freedom of thought. Hey, guess what? I could take the hard punches and all that. I'm cool with that. So, yeah. Was glad to share what, Smoke had as well. All right, going further down, making sure I read this. At Maximus Crypto, that was compliment. You sell it so well, and your backing is, I know it was a compliment, making me and others convinced we are in the right place. You rock. Happy birthday. Hey, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Yeah, we do have some SHX to get into in a bit. And as far as exactly that, I don't know. I don't have the exact prediction of that, but I will state this. I mean, my philosophy has always been, if XRP really runs something fierce, then XLM has to be part of that. And we've already seen it. Technically speaking, if you really get into it, like, was it back in January when XRP was really, really running? As far as the X's point of view, Stellar, technically speaking, kind of outperformed that. But anyway. All right. Thank you, Michael O. Lisa, thank you so much. And thank you, S. Parker. You're very welcome. All right. We're going to get into the next part we have. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. I'll give it a little announcement. I don't know for sure how this is going to go, but I'm at roughly 46 to 48 minutes on my AI music videos. So once I get to a full exact 60 minutes or more, my plan is, and it's going to take some hard work to do it. I want to create the first of my knowledge, a crypto hip hop slash, just a crypto AI radio station where it could be like a community chat room where you hang out with your bros and so on. Maybe there'd be charts, I don't know. But you can go there and you can listen to some good tunes and chat it up with your broskies and your sisters and whoever. And it's on like 24/7. That'd be pretty cool. And then as I make more in the future, because it's all, not copyrighted, which is really cool, that just injects more of it in there. But I will state this. I know some of you guys got a little spoiled with the AI music videos. Some of you guys ask about it and so on. So my plan is to do that. And if I could pull it off. Now, there might be some things where YouTube might not allow it. If they don't allow it, then the other thing I was thinking about possibly doing it, because you guys claim that you want the music video and you want the tunes, is to do a Patreon. Maybe. I don't know. I'm kind of up in the air on both of them. But anyway, it's a long-term work in progress. So I need at least 14 to 16 more minutes on that to do a proper, where it's like a loop, 1 hour, and then every hour just runs. And then, it'd be a nice hangout place for everybody. I think people would appreciate that. So that would be cool. And so anyway, some people, they get kind of spoiled with every video for a while, right? It was having like these music videos at the end. You got to keep in mind, to do those edits, it's very time consuming. So I just want to throw that out there if you're wondering, like, why isn't you doing more? It's because it is pretty time consuming. But, it's fun too. But at the same time, I don't want to deviate from the what we have as far as the actual meat and potatoes, the content and whatnot. There's some more questions, and I'll read it, and then I'm going to kick into the next thing on what we have. All right. So let's go further down. E-Dubs, Maximus Crypto, and others. Have you been seeing people call Jasmi vaporware? Heck, I see people say Q&T's vaporware. Do you think that's... No. No. No, if I honestly really consider vaporware, I wouldn't even waste my time with it personally. Jasmi is so much bigger than most people realize, especially entering into 2026. So again, the Afila product, if you will, Sony Afila, it's Sony's first ever electronic vehicle showcased in LA in January. Okay. And with that said, this car is going to be rolled out, apparently, unless it's some kind of crazy delay happens, next year in 2026. Well, the way I look at it is, think about like all the research we've done. Think about the infrastructure. Think about all the patents. Think about everything IoT related that Jasmi's connected to. It's an absolute sleeping giant. I wouldn't put Jasmi at my number 3 for no reason. And yeah, you better believe that. Like, what's also part of my top 5? Yeah, my XDCs, my H bars. I still haven't forgotten about, like, things like BSV. But like, the way I look at it is, it's not necessarily what tech you have. It's also who you're connected to. That also plays a huge factor. But vaporware is probably because some people are very disappointed. A lot of people dumped after the whole Binance situation, and that's to be expected. But also keep in mind this. I don't know how long you've been into Jasmi, but you also have to keep in mind when that thing crashed all the way to 2 zeros, so 0.2027. Michael Cornwell gives me a call up at 5 o'clock in the morning, wakes my happy Maximus Crypto butt up, says, my God, this is the time to buy. It will probably never be this low, and he was right. And so, I went from, this is not a flex because some people have significant bigger bags, right? So it's not, measuring contest. But at the time, I had like 400,000 Jasmi, and then I topped that off by buying another 600,000. I wanted to have at least 1 million Jasmi, and I was so glad I did that because I was like, come on, man, stand by your research. You know what research you've done. You probably out-research most people that don't know about some of these key things. And I said to myself, that was the time to buy, and it so paid off. So as a direct reaction of Binance US, of course, the token tank. But as of last December, and I think also January, so we saw Jasmi go as high, actually reach all-time highs of market cap, but not coin, right? We saw it almost touch 6 cents, right? So like for somebody like myself, I mean, that was almost That was almost like $60,000 just off of Jasmi, which is cool, but that's not going to make me wealthy or anything like that. But it goes to show that roughly, I would say, was it about 25x, I think it was. So we did about 25x or more since the whole thing of Binance US, right? Well, where do we go from here with the recent Binance FUD? Again, people, when they saw this thing, increase, you got to keep in mind, so many people bought when it was at a really high price, right? So maybe some of those people came in, right below 2 cents. And they're like, yeah, all this FUD about Jasmi and so on, the Binance situation, I'm out. That's always going to happen. That can happen with any project. It doesn't matter if it's HBAR. It doesn't matter if it's Jasmi. You name it. Any project, those things, those negative aspects will cause retail to dump a certain position. That's just part of the game. But no, I don't consider it vaporware. It will be used. It will have pairings, as we know, with the Japanese economy. It is the first regulatory compliant cryptocurrency in Japan, a country that has more stringent and strict regulations than even us. You may think that it's strict here. It's not a drop in the bucket compared to there. And that's why they're referred to as the Bitcoin of Japan. There's so many things when it comes to Jasmi, and I'm so glad that they addressed the problems with being ERC20. So they have a layer 2, AI times deepen with Junction, okay, built on optimism. Then on top of that, we have an interoperability problem that I've always pointed out for years now. Well, they addressed that. Do I wish they would have went with Quant? Absolutely. But Chainlink, honestly, might be the better solution because for one, it's higher market cap, and Chainlink probably does a better job than Quant does when it comes to marketing. Well, what was one of the biggest criticisms of Jasmi for at least 2+ years? Marketing. So they get kind of an all-in-one when it comes to filling that, that problem, that void, I should say. So it's very cool to see where they're going. Where they're going is, in my opinion, to the top. Still very slept on. The only time you really see a lot of people cover Jasmi is when it skyrockets, right? But nah, my bags are more than packed. They have been for a while, and I always look forward to covering Jasmi. I got some Jasmi on this outline. Want to see how I'm doing my time. I'm glad I did an early show because I don't want to be pressed for time when I have to leave later on. Gonna get a steak dinner. So porterhouse, ribeye, right, with side salad and what else? Broccoli. So I'm not gonna do the potato because potato is carbs, and old Max needs to lose weight. So, but anyway, 17 pounds since April 1st. Not too shabby. Keto diet for the win, and I'm not hungry every day, so that's kind of cool. All right, let's go further down. Michael Golpe is in the house. See, his ears have been ringing. Give him a follow, and I got to do this. I don't have to do this, but I just want to do it anyway. You want to support those that are in this space, you will follow people like this guy. Okay. Let me see. Because for one, he's awesome. And as my friend would say, awesome possum. All right. So here's his channel. I'm looking to do more collaborations. This last week I didn't because I went freaking crazy with 15+ videos, right? But we did quite a few. Here's his channel though. And like it says, Michael Golpe, all one word. You could also be following on X. And what's cool is if you go to his channel, he covers all sorts of things, right? Your XRPs, all sorts of things. You go on this little journey with him wherever he goes. He kind of dresses like an ex-Wall Street guy, right? But anyway, very sharp dresser. And he has great perspective. He actually will share a perspective with you that you might not have heard before. And of course, here's some of our collaborations that we've done. So, he talks about AI and blockchain. He's also looking into Cubic. As we discovered, 15 million TPS. That's crazy. I'm, of course, still more bullish on BSV with TerraNode, but I do look at everything. And the way I look at it is BSV says, significantly less supply, right? Only like 21 million coins versus Cubic has quite a bit, right? But whatever the case be, not on mainnet. or non-testnet everybody on mainnet with Cubic, we saw, for example, 15 million TPS in the documentation, and that came from Certic. So it wasn't like they were just whipping something up. That was really cool. But good to see you, Michael Golpe. Give him a like, comment, subscribe. Actually, watch some of his videos. Don't just go to some of these guys' channels and not watch their content. I understand you guys watch a lot of different content, so much time in a day, but consider. All right, check them out. All right, let's see here. I need to get further down into the comments or towards the bottom and get back into the outline. Let's see here. E-Dubs, thank you for addressing that quickly. Appreciate it. Yeah, you're welcome. I might skip some comments, but it's not on purpose. SHX is another, sleeper. I feel as though, Stellar runs, SHX will run, but obviously when we talk about remittances, they are a part of the ISO 222 mix. Sometimes I forget to add them because we're talking, there's so many things to cover. I'm like, I need to give them an honorable mention a little bit more. So I do have a little segment about them because it's been a while. Hey, that means a lot. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I agree with this, Selmo. I totally agree with this. And so when we do the C pool coverage, the C pool coverage will connect with ZBEC and Quant, and you're going to see how it does that. All right, for real, it might just be like a trifecta bit of coverage. So is ZBCN is you guys' thing? You're going to see how we even connect things like C pool with it. It blew me away when I saw that today. All right. Yeah, thanks, man. Oh, you guys are too nice. Too nice. Thank you so much. All right. Here's $10 super chat. I did see you, Nerdy, so I'll give you a shout out here in a second. Thank you for the highlighting of channel. Yeah, man, no problem. Again, thank you again for your super chat. I really appreciate you. Crypto Cross the Road Show. We did highlight him. Check him out. Also, check out this guy, Nerdy X. We appreciate you too, brother. So thank you for that. And it means a lot, guys. Thank you so much. Happy birthday to Max. Happy birthday to Max. Happy birthday to Max. Well, thanks, man. Again, Nerdy X, drop you guys' channel because I know it's you and a few others collaborate. We'll highlight your channel, get you guys some maybe some more followers and so on and so forth. You guys are already doing a good job. And maybe in the future, if you ever want to do a collab, we can. You can message me on X. I'll try to maybe schedule something like that. Would be kind of cool. All right. Yeah, you too, man. Much love to you, Nerdy X. Good to see you, man. Thank you for all your support over the years. All right. All right, let's go here. Yeah, I think I read that. I want to recognize this super chat from Jara Rutledge. Happy birthdays. Man, grab some more tokens. Yeah, I agree. But I don't necessarily like to buy them when they're on green candles and stuff. But absolutely. Thank you so much for that $20 super chat. It's more than appreciated. Matt Larry Collection. Okay. Had to make sure because I saw a beard with a bald guy named Larry, and I kind of have to, kind of catch myself. So good to have you. Thanks for being here. All right. Hey, Max, love your work. Thanks, Race, if I'm pronouncing that right. Yeah, most def, man. Very cool. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. What we're going to do now is get into the next part of what we have. Obviously, we do little fun things. Okay. So for one, just another thing, just in case you tuned in, wondering what this is. This is BTCC. And of course, get yourself $10 free in Tether. If you don't like Tether, swap it to something else. If you're like, I don't like exchanges, get off the exchange. Well, then how do I do that? Get yourself a decent wallet. You'll get yourself a decent discount, right? $30 off, you get one. If you buy two, because you want maybe a moon bag, you get 99 off. Links are in the description. And so again, if you're not comfortable with the exchange, get it off of there. For some of you guys that want to do leverage trading, a lot of us got kicked off of KuCoin and also MEXC, basically because of the SEC, right? But I'm just going to do a quick plug to BTCC real quick. And let's share it. So first thing I want you guys to do, if you choose to do this, right? I'm not telling you what to do. When you go to BTCC, all right, say you're brand new to this. You're like, I am scared to death about leverage trading. Hey, guess what? I can't blame you. You'll lose your freaking you-know-what on it. Not financial advice. But if you're really interested of getting some of that now money, because we're into so many different long-term plays, make your head spin, right? Or QNTs or XRPs, you name it. Well, I do like the idea that there's some actual now money. So I remember being a kid, my 8th grade teacher told me that he did very well with stocks and so on, right? This is literally, my God, 30 years ago. Shout out to my, homeroom teacher, Mr. Dickinson. And he would say, yeah, you can do a free stock account and so on. Some of you guys are aware of this. Well, guess what? That also applies to crypto. So what I want you guys to consider doing is when you go over here is obviously get your free USDT. If you choose to, not bother with leverage trading, hey, whatever. That's fine. By the way, you can get Jasmi on BTCC. I got XRP, XLM, pretty much most of the main ones. You can even get BSV as American. How cool is that? How hard of an asset that is to get. They have that on BTCC. Okay. So you're going to go over here and you see where it says futures. You're going to click on where it says demo trading. Practice trading USDT margin and coin margin futures. That way you're not gambling with any money at all, right? Get familiarized with it. And basically speaking, like, get comfortable with it and so on. So once you're comfortable with it and you're like, you know what, I think I have an idea what to do. Then what I'd like to see you do is go over to this part where it says futures copy trading. And I want you to go to where it says follow the world's top traders. Now notice the guy mentioned first is all of the money by Q. Now he can have a maximum of 500 copy traders. He's at 269. Well, here's what's interesting. If we click this, for example, okay, and go over to the copy trading, all right, we see that we have guys like all the money by Q. And let's check out that leaderboard for a second. Because when we check out the leaderboard, excuse me, he's one of the first guys that's mentioned, all right? And he has, and I don't know why it's not loading that up, but basically he has over a 90% success ratio. That is absolutely tremendous, if you ask me. I think that's more than tremendous. I think that's major, right? And so that gives you a fighting chance, okay? And again, here it is. So all the money by Q. I think it just takes a moment. Here we go. All right. And basically, yeah, there it is. Look at that. Look at his win rate. I think he's number 1 right now. He just increased actually before our eyes. He went from 93% to 94.79%. And I think he's been on here for, I want to say 2 or 3 months or more. Say what you want. He's killing it. So my thing is, I don't want anybody to lose their you-know-what. Yes, before in the past, it's kind of like it's a scary thing to mention, right? But the way I look at it is do demo trading. See if it's for you. It's not financial advice, but see if it's for you. Because I know a lot of you guys are looking into, you want some of that now money. So look, I'm not saying for you guys to leverage your existing XRP, but you may consider, like what I do is I have like, obviously my long-term XRP holdings, right? I'm not going to touch them. Then I have maybe like a separate thing for my leverage trading and so on. And I don't want to just blindly follow somebody that hasn't done well. I want to follow, copy trading on this. So the cool thing is, if you want to like make this on autopilot, for example, you can follow this guy, and that is so much better of a success rate than just closing your eyes and, well, I hope the best. Hoping for the best is how you do get wrecked, obviously, in leverage trading. So check it out if you choose to do so. Just thought I'd mention that to you guys. And obviously, check out my QR code. Now, the other thing I want to jump into is this. Okay. I'm going to pull this up. And basically, it's this. All right. So shout out to the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend. Who am I talking about? The man, the myth, the legend is Tokenizer, and he is totally part of Chain Stats Pro. Now, look on the bright side, guys. I'm not promoting some meme coin or meme token that has no utility and so on. If anything, I'm sharing something with solid utility with you that is really, you guys, some of you guys like Michael Cornwell, you like to get in at the floor of stuff. I don't know if you're quite at the floor, but this hasn't, of course, done anything crazy yet, right? Let's full screen this. Let's share this, okay? Because guess what? There's even people I believe in Encash, right? You guys are a lot familiar with Nick Encash. This is a utility like literally a utility analytical tool platform, a tokenized one built on the XRPL. How cool is that? Now, we did talk about, for example, I know I keep coming in and out, but we did talk, for example, about your BTCCs. In my opinion, this is a great thing to use in combination with your BTCC. Here's why. It's just some brief announcements, and then we'll get into some of the deep dive material that you're used to. So for one, like it says, Chain Stats, as in Chain Stats Pro, unlocking Web3 data like an oil refinery for blockchain, right? We're all trying to, get those green God candles, but at the same time, we're trying to find, data is the new oil, right? So we turn raw data into valuable data-driven insights, helping users thrive in the Web3 economy. So for one, they have a token, and that token is built on the XRPL, and it is called Stats. Don't get the one that's on Ethereum. That's a totally different thing. But it's literally called Stats, and I believe it's on Coinbase, and of course also not Coinbase, excuse me. CoinMarketCap has a listing, and also CoinGecko. 5 hours ago, I think this is a good thread. It says the market doesn't pause, neither should your data. In a world of liquidations, flash crashes, and of course mevbots. Mevbots are super annoying, right? Delay equals danger. Legacy analytics wait. Chain Stats streams real-time order books, liquidation walls, and heat maps straight from exchanges. That is very, very true. The chain moves fast. Your data should too. And like it says, streams real-time order books, liquidation walls, and heat maps. Now, they posted this, of course, on my birthday. Today's my birthday, May 12th. But I wanted to point out this to you. And that is, when you go over to Chain Stats Pro, last I checked, I think they were still doing some maintenance. So it was kind of like down at the moment. But let's say you get the pro version of it. What's really, really neat about this is that you can see, for example, XRP with that pairing just to like the US dollar, or XRP with like USDT. So let's say it's XRP with USDT. You can see what's going on with the KuCoin exchange market. And are they liquidating XRP? You can stay ahead of the game. So instead of just following like an influencer who does live charts, which is fine, don't get me wrong, especially if they know what they're doing, you can now combine this to give you, like, again, to stay ahead of the game. Because what if it's not just KuCoin? What if it is Coinbase also? What if it's a bunch of exchanges they are liquidating? Well, that would dramatically help you, especially if you're choosing to do leverage trading. So again, check them out. And there's another example I want to show here that was really, really cool. It's this further down. Legacy systems index data after it happens. Just like Google, right? Google is the world's largest centralized data indexer. So Chain Stats interprets data as it happens. I like some of the terminology. Live order books, liquidation walls, order book heat maps, all streamed on chain. No delay, no distortion, so on, right? So from index to instant. All right, there's another one I want to show you. On May 8th, remember how BTC hit over 100K again, which is cool. The first sell block was violated and noted yesterday, at least at that time, with rising bids. Watch for sell side liquidity at the current ask of 101, 150, and 104,000. And they show these examples, right? So again, I would show you in real time, but last I checked, they were doing some maintenance, and they do that, right? They have like German engineers. That's what Tokenizer was mentioning to me before. So on this one, on the top right, in the screenshot, shows the order book, right? So on this one, back to KuCoin, top left. So it shows you literally, where's this data coming from? Data's coming from BTC USDT pairing. Now again, this is just on the 1-day chart, but you can, go all the way down to 5 minutes if you choose to do so. So this is where they're citing this. This is where they're referencing it. And of course, you could change the colors. Let's say you wanted to do, different colors other than just black and white. That's pretty cool to see some of this. The other one was what you see here. And they have constant examples of this. I'm going to show you just one more example. All right. And basically speaking, hold on a second. Yeah. This is a good example. Greg Byrne, the European Data Protection Board just said if individual data can be deleted on chain, regulators may force deletion of the entire chain. They recommend only using permission chains. That sounds is impossible, but here's what it actually means and why this isn't the world for public DLTs. And he gets into some of these things. He says the problem: GDPR gives every EU resident a right to be forgotten. Public blockchains append only ledgers. Well, what about the ones built on the XRPL? I think you kind of understand where we're going with this. And again, back to the whole thing of the examples, because you guys are paying attention to what's going on with BTC lately. We've been hovering around 104, 105. I mean, is it going to go to 110? But again, top right of the screenshot, I'll just zoom in a little bit more on it. You see here, it's where it says order book. Hold on, let me scroll over. Yeah, and the top right says liquidation. So if liquidation is happening, it's going to let you know. And on the live feed, it will also show you in real time, like, is it more buys coming in? Is it more sells coming in? And it shows you in real time from the exchange. So I thought that was a big deal. I'm going to jump back into the comments for just a brief bit. We'll get into the next part of what we have here in a moment. And basically speaking, let's see who it is. Let's go further down. All right, let's go into it. Hustle Hard Crypto. Thank you. Big shout out to Nerdy X. He's always mentioning your research, Max. And he brings the fire content also. I know he does. That's awesome. Very, very cool. Thank you for referring some people over, Nerdy X. And guys, give Nerdy X a follow if you haven't done so already on YouTube and even X. All right, Michael Golpe says he's working overtime to buy more crypto and get to chill with Max. Awesome day. Thanks to Paul for the shout out. Very, very cool. Yeah, looking forward for another one, man, for sure. Your son's birthday was on Wednesday. How old's your son, if you don't mind sharing, Paul? All right, Doctors, I don't know what that's about, but that's all right. Welcome, Dr. Sinus, if I pronounced that right. Might not be. Dreamer, been a while since I've seen you, man. Hey, man, good to see your old familiar face. Dreamer, good to see you, man. $15 super chat. Thank you so much, man. Really, really appreciate that. Very, very kind of you. And a lot of, it's just always good to see OGs in the space. All right, let me clear out some tabs real quick, and then we'll get into what we have and why we point some of this stuff out with you guys. So let me just clear out some of this, because let's face it, that's help with the memory. Google Chrome, man, eats up a lot of memory, right? I know there's other ones I could use, but my StreamYard, I kind of prefer Google Chrome. All right. So just clearing a little bit more out, and then we'll get into the next topic here soon, which is good stuff. And I believe it might be SHX. Let me just double check. All right. So, yep, it's SHX. All right, let me just take a quick sip of this real quick. All right. So what do we have from Stronghold? Smash that like for some Stronghold SHX. Been a while since we talked about Stronghold. So Tammy Camp has some announcements, and I think this is definitely worth sharing in light of everything that's happening when it comes to potential regulations looming here soon, hopefully soon, right? So she decided to post twice, actually, on the same topic, but I can't blame her. And it's basically this. Tammy Camp mentions specifically, crypto is going mainstream. Do you feel that way? And Washington is paying attention. Senate rejects restrictive DeFi rule. Digital assets are part of the national strategy. New frameworks are basically in the works. Stablecoin legislation advancing. Watch our video on what's coming this year. Now, I'm not going to play the video because there's too much music in it, but you're going to see my version of that video. And of course, where I use some tools I have to basically block out the music for the most part. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share this, and I'm just going to pull it up. So give me just a moment to do so. And when you see it, I think it's going to all make sense. And I'm going to also highlight some other key things about that. So actually, before I do, one of the highlights I actually did want to share with you, it was in the description for this. So my bad on that. Here it is, and it mentions from the actual video. The United States government, this is posted May 6th, is rapidly shifting its stance on crypto, rolling back regulations supporting crypto custody in banks and exploring a national BTC reserve. With bipartisan support for stablecoin legislation and a new regulatory framework in the works, 2025 could be a turning point for mainstream crypto adoption. Now, of course, there's many chapters here, but I like what's mentioned here, to say the least, and that's, of course, why I'm bringing it to you guys. So as I pull this up, you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about and what she's sharing, and, of course, muting out the music, to say the least. So let's see if we just pull this up real quick. Yes, new Stronghold SHX update straight from the one and only Tammy Camp. Here we go.
Tone from the top on crypto has shifted dramatically with the incoming administration. There's already been a total 180 on these hot button issues. The SEC dropped lawsuits against Kraken and Coinbase and ended other investigations. The SEC also reversed an accounting rule, SAB 121. I know this might not sound exciting, but it's going to be easier for banks to provide crypto custody, and that's huge. Congress has been working to clear obstacles. For example, the Senate voted to overturn DeFi broker rule that requires IRS reporting for consumer transactions. And it's not just a rollback of regulation. The plans for a strategic Bitcoin reserve and a U.S. digital asset stockpile is a major market signal. There's nothing like having the U.S. government as an investor. It says, not only is crypto legit, we want to be a part of this future too. And SEC Commissioner Hester Pierce, aka Crypto Mom, is leading a task force to shape a realistic regulatory framework for crypto. It will look ahead, not react to the past, with enforcement years later. One big issue is stablecoin legislation. It has plenty of bipartisan support because we all know digital currency will eventually become mainstream. And because clear regulation will make markets safer, create confidence, and drive growth. So, stablecoin bills have a lot of activity in Congress, but we're still waiting. Will it cross the finish line in 2025? That will be a watershed moment. Crypto has fundamentally changed the dynamic between money and government. Some crypto purists would shun a sovereign state's attempt to control this global force. Others want government to legitimize cryptocurrency and encourage mainstream use. What does the right kind or right amount of regulation look like to you? Let us know in the comments.
All right, so there you have it from Tammy Camp. Now, one of the things I gathered is this, she is pointing out some key things that are other than just sharing what Stronghold is providing and so on. But we look more into the whole thing of Stronghold when we talk about specifically like remittances and whatnot. Well, again, if Bitcoin was supposed to be a peer-to-peer cash system, well, again, think about like the whole concept of what remittances bring to the bigger picture. Combine that with that's part of Stellar's ecosystem. You can have an idea of how we get to that mainstream mass adoption that she's basically pointing out. How do you feel in regard to the whole thing of where legislation and, for example, regulations will cause the market to blast off? Drop it into the comments if you choose to do so, either on the live or, of course, on the replay or the recorded chopped up version. We're going to do now something a little fun for you guys. We're just going to play this. Actually, we're going to read this comment real quick, and that is, Maximum Crypto, great stream as always. Have your birthday, love. Have to roll out. Have a good one. Well, no problem. Good to have you. And I'll read this from Michael Golpe. Monica. Yeah, I know where you're going with that. Michael, John, Scott, thank you for being here. Tony, you guys rock. So, yeah, we're going to do something a little fun, and then we'll kick it into the next part of what we have in the coverage, and that is, I'm going to be honest, something that you might somewhat be aware of, but I'm thinking you might not be aware of it at all. And of course, it'll be the Jasmi segment. So a lot of you guys have been waiting for Jasmi. This is the segment you're looking for. Lionel Richie. All right. So what is this? Well, for one, again, let's have a little fun with it before we get into it. And let's see, what one are we going to play on a little mix real quick before we, maybe get some of the juices going or something. I don't know. Maybe we'll figure something that out with that, right? So let me see here. Well, if anything, maybe it's time, since it's my birthday, right? I think, we all need to party up, right? Shout out to DMX. We gotta have a party up in here. But, it's Motown. Is it? Check it out. Here we go.
Y'all gonna make me lose my mind. Up in here. Y'all gonna make me go all out. Up in here. Y'all gonna make me act a fool. Up in here. Y'all gonna make me lose my cool. Up in here. If I got to bring it to you cowards, then it's gonna be quick. All your mans that been to jail before, click. And I don't know who the you think you turned into, but I'm not him. I slim. So watch what you do, or you gon' find yourself buried next to someone else. And we all thought you loved yourself, but that couldn't have been the issue. Or maybe they just saying that not to dish you. That's why you laying on your back, looking at the roof of the church. Preacher telling the truth and it hurts. Y'all gon' make me lose my mind. Up in here. Y'all gon' make me go all out. Up in here. Off the chain, I leaves off in the brain, cause still want the fame off the name. First of all, you ain't rap long enough to be with me, and you ain't strong enough. So whatever it is you puffin' on that got you think that you Superman, I got the kryptonite. Should I smack him with my or the mic? Y'all is characters, not even good actors. What's gonna be the outcome? Let's add up all the factors. You whack, you twisted, your girls are, you broke, the kid ain't yours, and everybody know. Your old man say you stupid, you be like, so? I love my baby mother, I never let her go.
That's right. That is right. All right. Some old fuss. That's 20 years from now. The market cap will be 100 trillion. Wow, that'd be something, right? Yep, those lyrics sound familiar. Absolutely. Shout out to the late great DMX. This is some smooth gangsta jams. Well, the beautiful part is, some people are like, "Where can I download? Who sings that?" Believe it or not, it's all AI. AI is getting really, really sophisticated, right? Crazy. Yes, indeed. All right. So what we're going to do now is simply jump into the Jasmi coverage. Yes, indeed. This is the Jasmi coverage you're looking for. Lionel Richie. All right. Having some good fun with that, right? Well, let's pull this up. So, again, been a while since we covered some Jasmi when it comes to the Sagan Tosu fan token. Now you may be wondering, like, I don't want to talk about the Sagan Tosu fan token. This is going to be a chilly segment. Nope. I decided to expand upon this and share some key things with you guys, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be pretty cool, right? So, first thing is actually going to come from a reposting from the one and only Hala-san. Yes, Hala has something that he wants to share with us all, and I think it's important. So What is it? Well, in the findings, he posted this, or repost. Straight from Sagantosu at Sagantoso _ FT. Translated from Japanese to English, it says, thank you, or arigato. Thank you to everyone who came to the fan token special booth today, at least then. Sagantosu Shin fan tokens will be even more innovative in 2025 and are scheduled to go on sale in July. Look forward to some of these things. And who do you see part of this posted originally May 3rd? Yep, you see towards the top middle, Kazumasa Sato, right? Sato-san, okay? Not Kunitake Ando. Sato-san, all right? That's cool. And again, Jasmi presents. Okay, so why point some of these things out? Well, numerous reasons, right? But if you think about it, it's Hara. Hara mentions specifically visualize not only the usual in-game stats, such as, for example, like what's mentioned here, possession and mileage, but also the data of players who have contributed to the team. We will attempt to convert this, of course, into value. I love the terminology with this, all right? In the visuals, you see, for example, Kazumasa Sato. Once again, Sato-san. And he's there, all right? Say what you want, whether you're fans of soccer and so on, it's more exposure and whatnot. Now, of course, this is not a game where it's like sold out seats. That's not the point. The point is what happens when you get more teams and more exposure, so on and so forth. So take you further into this, you see the display of the Sagantosu fan token. And of course, built on Jasmi. Interesting. All right. Here's the handshake. Sagantosu, shaking hands with, obviously, Sato-san. Okay. And I think that's worth pointing out. Now, even if you were to go over to Google Play, you see Sagantosu fan token. And of course, that's an app mainly for people in Japan. But they do update the thing. And you also see, for example, even from the App Store, right? Sagantosu fan token, Jasmi Incorporated. Again, what happens when there's more, right? It's not just Sagantosu, but maybe many teams. All right. Well, here's, again, where it gets a little bit interesting. Jasmi has the Sagantosu fan token, all right? So I decided to get more further into this because, I was mentioning the whole thing of like Chili's. Now, I'm not trying to necessarily promote Chili's like you're thinking I am, but there is something to be mentioned in comparing other markets when it comes to Jasmi that you're not aware of. So for one, Chili's, of course, has Chili's chains, their own particular blockchain and so on. Chili's had an all-time high of 89 cents, all-time lows of 0.004. And basically speaking, it's understanding that, yeah, Chili's currently, like, that's their main thing is like, sports and so on, right? Fan tokens, whether it's, key, was it, not in England, but some other places, right? Chelsea, not Chelsea, but what's the big one in there? I'm drawing a blank. We're talking about Manchester United, right? That's like one of the biggest names and so on. So again, Jasmi has so many different forms of utilities. The point I'm trying to make. Now, if you were to go do a search on Chili's, the sports blockchain, 9 hours ago, they point out a token with utility, trust, and identity. Dive deeper in technical fundamental insights. Okay. But this statement, look at this. They posted this early today. Chili's tokens and fan tokens are not and shall not be construed as investment or financial products. They are a form of crypto asset. Please note when it comes to crypto assets, the value is variable and can go down and up. These are unregulated in most countries and tax may be payable using profits, blah, blah, blah. It's just kind of like a disclaimer. But again, I want to point out that I think Jasmi is so much bigger than just what you're normally used to. Now, get this. Here's where I want to have you guys take into account some other things you're not aware of. I asked grok to kind of get involved here. And they summarized a deep dive, basically. In a nutshell, they say that by 2030, fan tokens have the potential to become a mainstream tool for fan engagement. With applications spanning sports, entertainment, and beyond, Chili's established ecosystem positions it, of course, to lead the market. And I understand you want to hear just about the whole Jasmi thing. We're going to get to that. But it's going to potentially drive fan tokens into a multi-billion-dollar industry, especially if integrated with betting and spot fight ecosystems. How many times did you see, for example, these betting platforms, right? Constantly you see that, right? So Jasmi's innovative use of dynamic NFTs and IoT could carve out a niche, particularly in markets valuing data sovereignty, but its success, of course, hinges on expanding, and we know that, beyond Sega and Tosu, and of course competing with Chili's scale. But the fan token market could realistically grow to several $billion by 2030, driven by global sports fandom and Web3 adoption. But challenges like market saturation, regulatory hurdles, so on and so forth need to be addressed. So while Chili's is a safer bet for widespread impact, look what it says in regards to Jasmi. Jasmi Tech offers a unique potential if executed well. Investors and fans should approach fan tokens with caution. Okay, we understand that. Now, here's another thing that I thought was cool. As I decided to get more deeper into this, because that's what I do, you see here, even from a simple search, how many sports teams are looking to create digital fan tokens, by 2030. And it says, while a precise number isn't there, it mentions specifically platforms like Socios, and we know Socios has like their own coin token, are already working with 130 sports teams on this. Trend is expected to continue even accelerate as technology advances, so on and so forth, right? But there's constant updates about this. Now, this is, in my opinion, maybe the smoking gun. I consider this really interesting. In this citation from substackcdn.com, here's the bottom line when it comes to fans. And I'm going to say this. I'll come back in the frame for a second. This is one of my gripes too. So I'm a big Portland Trailblazers / Phoenix Suns fan. You may be thinking, how could you be a fan max of two teams? Scam. That's not fair. You can't do that. Are you sure about that? Because I was born and raised in Portland, Oregon, and then I spent the other half of my life in Phoenix, Arizona, and my mom's favorite team was the Phoenix Suns. So yeah, I did do that. There is really no rules on that. I know some, Boston Red Sox fans are probably not going to like hearing that, but whatever. We're talking about basketball, a little bit different rules. But I am more interested as a fan of some of these teams if you can give me a better user experience. And with that said, if you look at, for example, the NBA is like you're having viewership that has totally diminished since the 1990s. Well, now, if you reference this, which we will, about the bases, like Gen Z and so on, they didn't necessarily grow up watching all this sports and so on, right? They're growing up with a different crowd of people. So as a result, that base is dwindling. How do you bring in some of these people? Again, it's creating mechanisms for that adoption. Here's where I'm going with this. This again caught my attention. Percentage of sports fans who would be very or somewhat likely to purchase a fan token if the following benefits were offered. And as you see, Gen Z is in the blue, represents about 75%. Okay. Well, it says they want free exclusives to merchandise. I do too. I'm not Gen Z. You know what I mean? I'm born in 81, so I'm at the end of Gen X, beginning of Gen Y, right? I don't even know what the heck kind of label you give me. I did play in the streets, guys. I did go home when that light came on, and I got all bruised up, so whatever. But being able to attend exclusive events with athletes, I like that. A random chance for free premium seats at live sporting events. Heck yeah. I don't want to keep sitting up in the nosebleeds, And I sure as the heck don't want to pay $2,000 for a seat out on the bottom deck. Right? The ability to win prizes or perks from participating polls, games, and quizzes. If you look at the light blue just represents the boomers. But among Gen Z and millennials, it's almost tied for that. The ability to win those prizes and perks. Okay, so that's in alignment. All right, free exclusive content to watch. Early access to purchase season tickets. Somewhat, interesting. Ability to vote on meaningful team or club decisions. So you can kind of see that the exclusive for merch and the exclusive for events with athletes kind of strikes home here. All right, originally cited 2023, and of course from Deloitte. All right, It gets better. Watch this. So I decided, I was like, well, maybe Selmo Fudd will be watching tonight. And basically, guess what? Our brother in the community, this guy, the one and only, Mr. Selmo Fudd, is very well watching tonight. There he is in the comments. So shout out to Selmo and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Here, check this out. This is for you, Selmo. We did talk about NBA. So even in the citation from 51 Insights, it says specifically, with clear communication, value generation, up top helps brands transform fan engagement to measurable sponsor. ROI, driving incremental spend through data-rich conversion-based rewards. Does that not sound familiar to you? In the case study, they mentioned how the Cleveland Cavaliers boosted fan spend by 40% and generated 1 million plus transactions in 2 months. I don't know about you, but when I see numbers like this, even though it's not in the billions, it could give you an idea of how we reach for one more personal data locker users. And I like the examples here because this is what I call mainstream adoption. I think people are sleeping on this personally. So 40% generated in 1 million plus transactions in 2 months. All right, multiply that by many teams. Heck, let's take it out from the whole perspective, everybody, of just, sports teams and so on. How much talk has there been about esports? For me, if I was working with the Jasmi team, which I'm not, again, I'm just a content creator / researcher, I'd be looking at it from all different aspects. I'd be looking at this like, especially esports. I'm looking to develop a couple games in the future. At a minimum, at least one first-person shooter. That's a real thing that's going to happen. You better believe it, right? My mission is by 2030 to actually get like a real product going with that. Well, it would interest me, things like this. And it would interest me, especially when it comes to esports, because that's a real thing. I mean, some arenas do fill up to watch some of those esports events. I know we're talking about some of the actual sports, as in basketball and soccer and so on. I think it's a great example. Getting more into this, I want to share this other key thing with you. It mentions the problem. Cleveland Cavaliers want to deepen fan engagement and loyalty beyond the game, connecting with fans with the team in meaningful ways throughout the year. The solution, partnering with, and for their example, of course, was Avalanche. And up top, the Cavs launched Cav Rewards, a blockchain-powered fan loyalty program that enhances the fan experience with real-world value and rewards. We're building what hasn't been done before, a scalable blockchain-powered loyalty network, where teams, brands, and fans interact seamlessly. If McDonald's sponsored the Cavs, the same reward system works for Real Madrid. One system, infinite monetization opportunities. All right, think about what I just mentioned here. And apply that to what? Apply that to what Jasmi is doing, for crying out loud. It's the same vision, different area of the world. So my thing is to really have this plug. You may feel as though here in America, it sounds very insignificant to you as a Jasmi holder. You're not realizing, and again, I don't mean no offense, you're not realizing the bigger picture, the bigger scope of it. It's unlocking other markets that you're not aware of. And to me, this is a big deal moving forward. Is that all I have? No, it's not. I decided to get more, of course, into this. And again, people like the idea of what's convenient. People like the idea of having rewards. But even back in October of last year, in this system with the Cavs, they have rewards for members to get a blockchain-powered wallet. Think about how that sounds. I know you guys get tired about hearing about the whole thing of, is the Jasmi Super Wallet ever going to come? But you know what? Say what you want. A good product takes time to be built. So this automatically would store their engagement history. This data is gold. It enables brands to target, reward, engage fans like never before. That part, it says this data is gold. What is one of the Jasmi's things? They mention platinum data, right? Harmonized data. I think, if anything, when you look more into the terminology, everything matches up in suit of everything else. All right. That's going to close out the Jasmi coverage for the time being. And I'm going to jump back into the comments because I think I just saw some super chats come in. I do have some XDC here soon, and I definitely wanted to address some of that. So let's see here. I want to first read this. You should definitely collab with NerdyX. Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean that. That would be nice. All right. Libby Brown, PhD. Welcome back, Libby. Oh. So I should say Dr. Brown. Welcome, Dr. Brown. All right, LMD Lisa. Hey, Lisa, thanks for that. Getting ready to drive 11 hours to see family in Sydney. Enjoy your birthday. Well, then you can listen with me. That's so cool. Thank you for that super chat, Lisa. That was awesome of you. Thank you for being a long-time supporter of the channel and so on. Really, really do appreciate that. And be safe with that long drive to Sydney, Australia, from wherever you were driving from. All right. Libby Brown, thank you for the $20 super sticker. I more than appreciate that. Let me check the other screen with what you got with the sticker. Hopefully I didn't skip up anybody else's super chat. If I did, it wasn't on purpose. I think there is some other ones, so sorry about that. Let me heart some of these. Heart the ones from earlier from Dreamer, Charlie Rutledge, Crypto Crossroads, Squeeze Crew. Thank you for that. Selmo Fuds, I'm highlighting his. And Crypto Crossroads again. Danny, hearting that as well. All right. So let's go further down. Let's go further down. And let's see what we got. So I think there was another one. Let me get into it. Yes, there was. Wow. Let's read this super chat. So again, thank you to all you guys that just dropped some. That means a lot. Thank you. Let's go further down. Oh, Shaman Says in the house. Good to see you, Shaman. Shout out to the Lazy Shaman Show with all you guys that do the show. All right. I want to thank Michael John Scott for the $50 super chat. Get you some Jasmi next. Well, I really have my bags packed on that, but thank you. Cheers, man, for all the alpha and cool tunes. Can you share links to the tunes or downloads? Thanks. So it's actually a lot of it's done with AI. As far as the links, it's on different platforms and so on, like some aren't even on YouTube. But what I'm trying to plan on doing is maybe do like an AI radio station on YouTube if I can get away with it, right? Because, you know, YouTube's kind of strict on that. But I'm trying to figure out a way to get it out there for people can enjoy it. So, but yeah, Michael John Scott, that was very kind of you. Thank you for the 50-pound super chat. Here's a pound from Maximus Crypto, right? Absolutely. Thanks, Shaman. And let's read this from, yeah. Mr. Big Man's, hi, Max, can you please do a Rothschild connection to blockchain? We'd love to see that. Yeah, we actually kind of done that already. So we did some stuff when it comes to Swift blockchain and talked about some of that. Rue Black has done that. I believe Underdog, their Underdog research channel. I did a little bit of it too with Rue Black. But if you want to see some of those deep dives, check out Rue Black's channel. We're at Black Rue. He does he has probably a little more when it comes to that than I do. Warner Brothers, hey, thanks. Love you right back. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, let's see here. SEI well, I've done SWE in the past. Some people call it SUI, like Rob Mass. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Dan. That was nice of you. Boom. All right. Yeah, you're very welcome, Shaman. Thank you, Shaman. Lazy Jedi. All right. Okay, so what we're going to do now is close out some other tabs real quick. Again, just a reminder, if you haven't done so already, let me just pull this up. And that is, what is it? Well, if I close out the tabs, you guys will know what it is. All right, so the next bit of coverage is XDC. But what I was going to state is, take advantage of getting yourself at least $10 free in USDT. You get it roughly in about a minute and a half, 3 minutes after scanning it. There's no KYC on there, by the way. How cool is that? And if you want to get things like BSV as an American, like some of you guys are like, I don't want to do the whole thing of buybsv.com. Whatever. I hear it. But as an American, you could get BSV. Just like how you used to be able to do that through KuCoin. You can do that on BTCC. They've been around since 2011. So take advantage of free money / crypto and so on. Don't like USDT, swap it. Don't want to keep on exchange, get off there. Don't have cold storage. Check out the link for a discount with Decent Wallet. Links in the description. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to get into the XDC coverage of the day. Shout out to my brother in the space, Tokenizer, one of the greatest researchers out there as far as I'm concerned, part of that Mount Rushmore of some straight up real good alpha. And of course, he leads up Chain Stats Pro. Look more into Chain Stats Pro if you choose to do so. Stay ahead of the game. So what he has is a community post that was made just like a couple hours before the show even started. So what's he talking about? Well, I like this. I like it a lot because he gets into the weeds of stuff. Tokenizer mentions specifically another day of XTC making history, everybody, absolute history in the world of global trade. He says we've already seen Inigio on XTC used, of course, by Lloyd's for the first ever UK EDTA compliant E-Trade transaction. Now, this is important, everybody. He says now they've secured the first ever ITFA DNI compliant trade too. This was through Lloyd's Bank and Miracor, a non-bank financial institution executing a trade involving importers and exporters. This is good stuff. You may not even be aware of it. Again, pretty fresh, right? So this is better known as a four-corner transaction. Each of the respective financial institutions, being Lloyd's and Miracor, being a corner respectively, and then the importers and exporters also being individual corners. And of course, we already know how this went by now. So once again, Inigio has successfully delivered on execution of digital trade through digitalized documents verified on-chain via XDC network. But what makes this especially notable is that this was done on the secondary markets. And again, that's big. In other words, buying and selling of trade finance instruments after the original trade transaction, wow. We now got national level leadership via pioneering UK EDTA and now international leadership via compliance to the ITFA's DNI. The network as an XTC are truly picking up. And of course, originally cited from Lloyd's, here it is. And you see that. And that was posted literally today. I'll blow it up a little bit more just in case you have a hard time seeing it on your phone, right? So again, in the highlight, development follows a series of other world first transactions completed by Lloyd's and Miracor. And again, just like Tokenizer point out. So I think this is absolutely major. And I like how it mentions at the bottom, unlike other systems, only the party creating the document needs to be an Inigio user, enabling broader market participation. Secondary purchasers can take possession of digital bills of exchange without signing commercial terms with Inigio. That is so unbelievably major. What happens when we have all of this stuff with, after regulations being passed and so on? I think the market gets sent. You already have what's being built, or already have what is built. It's just the next steps from here. I mean, we talk about Electronic Trades Document Act, electronic trades, bills of lading, digital bills. I mean, it's a major big deal. I'm glad that Tokenizer was able to share this with his community. And again, I mean, it's so cool to see, some of this kind of pan out, to say the least. And, Tokenizer does such a good job of having it all come together. Just to give you guys a heads up, where do we reference something that happened not that long ago? Here's the answer. This guy, shout out to XDC Pools. They originally cited Andre Casterman, kind of gave us a call to action, right? So December 1st, 2024. So XDC Pools says, great find. And it's in reference to XDC plus Inigio, confirmation by who? Andre Casterman. And Andre Casterman did point this out December 1st of last year. He says it does, when you refer to it as, Mr. Casterman, can you provide or confirm that Inigio's trace original works on the XDC network? Again, more confirmation. And we're seeing this come to light. So Andre Casterman, says he made this happen in 2021 and implemented it since 2022 in April, right? Because April, we know, was April 20th, 2022, give or take, or actually 2023. That's when ISO 222 went live. But it says focus next year, at least in 2023, was settling emulator transactions using regulated stablecoins such as RLUSD and many others that banks want to take advantage of. There will be many. My goodness. And again, back to what Tokenizer mentioned. I mean, I do think it's a big deal to say the least, and I'm obviously glad to share it. So glad to share it, right? All right, a little bit more about what we have here in a little bit in regards to like things like Luxo, and we're going to get into that here in a bit because it's a big announcement. We haven't covered Luxo in quite a while, so just kind of a little brief thing in regards to XDC, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that get absolutely sent after, especially regulations and so on. But I'm not going to be surprised at all, really, because in reality, it's what they already built, and now it's just trying to get more of that adoption by having the utility be used. How many people, even maybe some people here right now, like none of this stuff is getting sent. There's nothing to cause it to be sent yet. It's like you're in utility for a reason. You want to see the utility be used. It's not technically being fully used yet. All right, tad bit more. We're gonna jump just briefly into just comments. I think towards the end of the comments. I don't mean that in a bad way. Shaman says he likes the stream. Thanks, man. Jim Miller, happy birthday. Thanks, man. Appreciate that too. Stargazer, I saw it earlier, so thanks to you. Thank you. Everybody giving dabs to Stargazer. Yeah, good to see you, Stargazer. All right. So, Luxo, it's been a while. So, shout out to Praetorian. He gave me some Luxo updates. I definitely want to jump into this briefly. I think it's good to, basically do that. We got 570 on the combined. Pretty cool. So, here's Luxo update. And we're just going to simply pull this up here in a brief moment. So, just kind of close out just a couple more tabs. And who does it come from? Well, it's Fabian Vogelstiller. All right. So what does Fabian have in regard to some of these recent updates? Well, he points out this. Fabian says, this is a great image. Summarize what's possible, basically, with universal profiles right now. If you're looking for the most undervalued crypto project right now, it's definitely Luxo. Of course, that's posted by RBN. Now, some of these people are going to point some of these things out. And I'll show you an example. But it says Luxo is building the foundation for the digital identity, creativity, and culture. Now, I'm going to zoom in a little bit about this, okay? And I want to show you this. Universal profiles, on-chain identity, seamless UX. Let's zoom in a little bit more about why you may need to pay attention to this. 42 million LYX supply, okay? So that's pretty limited. Grid system to create mini dApps. The other thing I want to point out, founder Fabian Vogelstiller. I'll zoom in just a tad about this. Not too crazy. I pointed this out many times. I know it's a little blurry, but again, it's taken from a cell phone, not my cell phone. But it's a layer 1 blockchain. Fabian Vogelstiller is the co-creator of ERC20. Whether you're a fan of ERC20 or not, a lot of you guys aren't. Say what you want. That is still the most used smart contract of all time. Right? He's been in development of this for about 5 years, focusing on unique standards to enhance blockchain UX and dApp UI. Played a key role in building Ethereum's Web3 leading the Luxo revolution. All right, see what you want. Again, whether you're a fan of him or not, I think that's worth pointing out. I definitely think that's worth pointing out. The other thing I want to jump back into is when we get into this is posted only on like May 9th, so just like 3 days ago, right? So pull up a little bit more about this on a community post. This is from Family LAX. It says, get ready for the open beta of their Universal Goods protocol, launching soon on LYX mainnet. They are currently testing the core infrastructures, the 2 core, I should say, that will be powering the protocol and getting some much needed feedback from Luxo team. In this upcoming open beta, community members can tokenize any physical product and sell it globally, plus safely on a real-world asset marketplace. They're expecting to deploy Universal Goods V1 later by this year. Does that mean it gets sent by that time? I don't know, but it's interesting to see this. Then it's going to establish the whole thing of a public good for bringing physical products, of course, on chain. Real world assets is coming, of course, to Luxo. Now, this is 13 and a half minutes. I highly suggest you listen to it. This guy goes into a lot of key things. He posted this 2 days ago. If you're wondering why don't I just go ahead and play here, it's because his mic is too low. And I didn't have time, unfortunately, to, basically chop it up. Now, when you get to record it, I think I will go ahead and just chop it up for you guys and put an amp on it for you to hear it. But it's definitely worth pointing out. Now, to get this, shout to Praetorian. Here is why. A lot of you guys are in Shiba Inu still. I am too. It is what it is. But check this out. LYX, which currently sits around 95 cents, right? It did crash all the way down to, I think, about 70, 75. So with the market cap of SHIB, would put LYX at about $306. That's a 320x. That's not too shabby. And combine that with a very limited supply and an incredible use case. I mean, I think it's still a very slept on thing. I know I don't talk about it enough, but I need to. There's so many things to cover, right? It's hard to cover everything. All right, another update. Fabian Volgensteller, 2 days ago, again on my grandma's birthday, he points out Petra. It says Petra happened on Ethereum. Luxo will be next. I could get into a deep dive about Petra, but bring in all new features plus all new standards. How many times you guys hear me talk about standards when it comes to ISO TC 307? So big times. Watch out for announcement regarding Luxo Petra. Okay, so I'm not going to get into so much about this article he has. Maybe I will later. But what I think is big is understanding like where we go with it all. And for me, basically speaking, I guess I'll take just a brief moment. It mentions here that layer 2 chains were not an option as they do not yet have the proper security for anything that's not bridged. When we're talking about your account, your friends, followers, votes, reputation, and so forth, these elements are not easily able to be bridged from a layer 1 blockchain. First, securing at best only your assets. So he does like kind of like a deep dive about this, but I'll just show you kind of like a brief thing about this because again, he points out from the Luxo publication on April 8th, again, not that long ago, that there's this area. I think I had it bookmarked. I apologize. Let's see here. Yeah, here we go. Fabian created an identity account standard called ERC 725. Some of you guys are aware of that. Became the foundation building block for most of the standards on Luxo. All right, I'm just going to give you the quick gist without even reading this whole thing. From what I gathered, he uses this as an analogy. He points out that Luxo is like a fancier version of Ethereum. Well, it sure as the heck needs to be, right? And he also points out the whole thing of, digital identity. There's going to be something here with this. It's just, you can see that they're going to have the utility finally be used. I mean, everybody wants the utility to be used, but if he has actual use case combined with this update that's coming up later this year, are these going to be the catalyst to see some significant price action? Could very well be. But the other thing I want to point out, a lot of you guys aren't familiar with Luxo. About roughly, I want to say about a year ago, they did have some significant pumps. Some of you guys are just only into the stuff for the pumps, and that's okay. But let me just show you just an idea. All right. So check this out. This is from CMC, and in the stats, you will see here that even a year ago, we went up as high as, I want to say about roughly 4. And it also says here that all-time highs, it was a year ago, $11.61. Now, it's been down about 71% since then. But again, I mean, because of the supply, would there be another shock? I think the answer is yes. 30 million out of that 42 is ready in supply. My rule of thumb has always been, for the most part, if a supply has 80% or more in circulation, that's pretty cool because it puts you at less risk if the devs dump, right? Do we prefer more of it to be all in circulation? Of course. Will they take some profits if the market goes the other way? They're going to do what they're going to do, but it's the potential there. I think it's another good long-term hold. I, of course, hold this. If you're interested in getting Luxo, without getting too deep into this, I want to point out that there is links also in the description. I know I just mentioned this, but you can get Luxo on Uphold, and if you deposit, especially if you're new, 100 or more on Uphold, right? I get 20, you get 20. It's kind of like a win-win. But if you don't like Uphold, hey, it's all good. You don't have to go with Uphold, But nonetheless, a limited supply. We're always paying attention to those ones with limited supply with a lot of use case. So glad to give you guys a new Luxo update. And it's been a while. As you guys would say, it's been a minute when it comes to Luxo. Okay, let me close out some tabs. I'm going to get back in the comments for just a brief moment. We'll do something that's fun here in a bit also. And then we'll get into the next bit of coverage of what we have, which I believe is Yeah, Clearpool. So on the Clearpool segment, why am I mentioning Clearpool? For one, it's my birthday. Clearpool back in December 2021, when it was first released, was right around, I want to say 40 cents when it was public release. I'm not talking about the IPO, but we're talking about like just generally like anybody can get it, right? Your KuCoins and so on. It went from 40 cents to like 250 or 249 in about 2.5 weeks. That was major. Of course, back in those days, they had staking up to 120%, and they've done a lot. They've gone from, Ethereum to Polygon to Mantle to, all sorts of things. And now apparently making their own blockchain, which is called Ocean. Okay. Now, when you watch this, if you're a ZBCN holder, ZBAC, tomato, right? You're going to see how we connect Clearpool with things like even your ZBACs, and through what also? With Quant. The whole point of it all is interoperability, right? But if you're a holder of ZBAC, you may very well want to finally consider Clearpool. Again, I've been covering Clearpool since December 2021. It was the first project I ever covered, first real utility project I ever covered. While XRP was going insanely high and, did like a 10x and so on, and we're pointing out our stellars and all that stuff, our Jasmi is like, 25x. Believe it or not, the one that also deserved to have the honorable mention was Clearpool. Because on Clearpool, I also did a 25x. I have a friend that bought the bottom on Clearpool, right, when it was like right around a penny. He did a 50x, right? So for me, it's all, some people point out like, Max, you're always about altcoins. You don't talk about, one guy said, you don't cover BTC enough and so on. Are you kidding me? He's like, you should give them their flowers. But at the end of the day, altcoins is about the X's. It's about having those bigger margins, a bigger gain. So again, Clearpool. If you're a ZBCN holder, you may want to listen to this. You may want to consider Clearpool. I'm not paid by any of these guys when it comes to cryptocurrency projects to promote them. But I do like covering Clearpool once again because it's been a while. I don't forget my roots. And yeah, solid utility, real world asset, ecosystem, capital markets ecosystem. So I'm just going to read just a few comments. We'll kick it over to that. That's what's coming up. And it's a big, big deal to say the least. And I'm so glad to kind of tie this all in for you guys before we, get to the last part of our coverage. All right. So everybody's saying what's up to their homies and whatnot. I really appreciate that. VeChain Billionaire says, happy good day. Hey, thanks, VeChain Millionaire. Welcome, welcome. Mr. Lambo's Crypto Talk. Been a while. Maximus Crypto is live and the sun is still out. Let's go. Yeah, I know. Ain't that crazy? All right. But good to see you, Mr. Lambos. Thanks for being a long-time supporter. How does Luxo compare to Block V? Swap the Luxo I had last year for Quant. That I don't know. I'll have to get more maybe into that. Maybe I write that down. I don't know. But, if I don't know, I don't know. So I'm not going to BS you. So, but that's a good question. Swenden says, happy birthday, boss. Hey, thanks so much. Appreciate that. And thank you, Jose Camacho. F. Joe is saying what's up to Sell Mo. Might do a rhyme about that, right? All right. So let's see here. Let's kick into what we have here in a bit. And before we do so, let's do another thing that is fun. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this up because I think it is fun. And I'll give you guys a heads up. There's two key things here. Okay. So for one, you're going to see, I'm not going to spill the beans. You got to see it for yourself. It'll be a little fun thing. Let's see which one to do. Well, let's get into, yeah, I like this one. You know what, guys? I'm going to keep talking about Quant and the ISO coins and all this stuff with utility till I collapse, right? I'm 44 today. Today's my birthday. So until I collapse, I'm not going to stop talking about this stuff. If you guys already seen the video, you already know what I'm talking about. Let's have a little fun with this. Shout out to all you guys that are, Eminem fans. This might be a way you've never heard M before, and that's fine. But I'm glad to share it with you guys. So till I collapse, I'll never stop sharing this stuff. Doing the deep dives. Here we go.
Till the roof comes up, till the lights go up, till my legs give out, can't shut my mouth. till the smoke clears out. Am I high? Perhaps. I'ma rip this shit till my bones collapse. Till the roof comes off, till the lights go out, till my legs give out, can't shut my mouth, till the smoke clears out. Am I high? Perhaps. I'ma rip this shit till my bones collapse. Till the roof comes off, till the lights go out, till my legs give out, can't shut my mouth, till the smoke clears out. Am I high? Perhaps. I'ma rip this shit till my bones collapse. Give out from underneath me till I collapse. I'm spilling these raps long as you feel them. Till the day that I drop, you'll never say that I'm not killing them. 'Cause when I am not, then I'ma stop pinning them. And I am not hip-hop, and I'm just not Eminem. Subliminal thoughts when I'ma stop sending them. Women are caught in webs, spin them in hawk venom. Adrenaline shots of penicillin could not get the illing to stop. Amoxicillin's just not real enough. The criminal cop killing hip-hop villain, a minimal swap to cop millions of pop listeners. You're coming with me, feel it or not, you're gonna fear it like I showed you. The Spirit of God lives in us. You hear it a lot, lyrics to shock. Is it a miracle or am I just product of pop fizzing up? Fascism, my whizzle, this is the plot, listen up. Till the roof comes off, till the lights go out, till my legs give out, can't shut my mouth, till the smoke clears out. Am I high? Perhaps. I'ma rip this shit till my bones collapse. Till the roof comes off, till the lights go out, till my legs give out, can't shut my mouth, till the smoke clears out. Am I high? Perhaps. I'ma rip this shit till my bones collapse. Till the roof comes off, till the lights go out.
Hopefully you guys enjoy that. Maybe it's not your style, but I don't know. I haven't got any complaints about it, so it's kind of cool. All right. Thanks for taking care of whoever it was that decided to cause trouble on a person's birthday. Wow, that's pretty sad. But you know what? I pray for you, whoever you are. You must be going through some stuff if you got to do that, Anyway. All right, so what we're going to do now is this is the Clearpool / ZBCN / Quant video, okay? We're going to kind of connect with interoperability all three of these key things. And when you guys see the video on the chopped up version later, it'll be kind of one where it's all together, right? You'll see why. So first thing I want to get into is from Clearpool, believe it or not. Been a while since we shared some Clearpool. Let's first jump into this. And what do we have? Well, Clearpool has obviously a lot of announcements that's happened this year. Obviously making their own blockchain is very bullish in itself. A lot of you guys are familiar with things like Arbitrum and whatnot. Say what you want. When a project starts off small and they do things like building their own blockchain, that's a major big deal moving forward. Well, in the citation, straight from Clearpool Finance, they mentioned Clearpool is more than just a token. It's the engine behind 5 live products driving the Clearpool and Ocean real-world asset ecosystems. Now, this is, of course, a thread, and you may not like some of it verbatim, but it's really good. So what does what's the driving force for Clearpool? What makes it so unique? Number one, Clearpool, dynamic pools, flexible, permissionless, lending pools. I'll come back for a second. Some of you guys recently have asked me things like exit plans, what to do, and so on. Some of you guys already know what you may or may not do. But one thing that stood out to me, even about almost 4 years ago when it came to Clearpool, was you could put your stable coins to work. A lot of us are going to obviously swap to some stable coins and earn yields, right? And then just stake those stable coins and so on, because we feel as though that might be a safe play. Some people don't like the whole concept of staking. Hey, it's kind of mixed, but whatever the case be, what has always stood out to me is Clearpool is a platform that even right now you can stake those stable coins. They're collecting dust on their particular platform. Now, is it ones that it's just like crypto dust? Not necessarily, but if you have anything of significance there, you might want to look into it. As you get into the whole entire deep dive, if you want to call it that, it says institutional borrowers access unsecured liquidity with interest dynamically rates adjusting, I should say. Over 620 in loans have originated across dozens of single borrower pools, of course, on ETH, Optimism, Polygon, and remember how I mentioned Arbitrum? They do have the whole thing of Mantle, right? And they even got the whole thing with Base. There's Clearpool Prime. Some of you guys wonder, does Clearpool have any ties to the institution? So it's institutional grade, permission DeFi marketplace. And again, it mentions those ones we just mentioned earlier, but they have total value locked of over 22 million. Clearpool Prime keeps gaining momentum, and it surpassed 160 million in total loans originator. That's pretty big. Now you have to keep in mind, if you're to go over to clearpool.finance, they will say, because you're in the United States, you can't go over there and so on. Of course, not financial advice. You use a VPN and stuff like that. But I think after these things start to calm down, especially with the SEC, then your platforms like your Clearpools, you're going to be more than fine. All right. But there's opportunity here, of course. As I could take you further into this, I want to point out some of these other things. So you could deposit what's referred to as USDX backed U.S. Treasury bills. That's crazy, right? And of course, it's in the Clearpool T pool. And some of you guys are really bullish on Flare. You have this connection to Flare in the past. I cover this. Not a lot of people pay attention to it, and that's okay. But you can earn Treasury yield plus extra Flare rewards. The pool currently holds nearly 25 million, and users enjoy sustainable APRs with flexible deposits. Clearpool Oracles, that's real time. Right? All right, I'm going to jump into this. C-pool holders can stake to any Oracle, helping secure the protocol and earn an average APR 3.43%. Excuse me, 3.43%. Currently, over 157 C-pools staked across all Oracles, 157 million, I should say, with voting power capped at 15% per Oracle. Ocean blockchain for real-world asset yield. Again, this is Clearpool's, newly formed blockchain. Join the pre-deposit campaign. Earn what's called Ocean droplets. Gee, I wonder who they took some of that, from. But anyway, if you want to earn some of these droplet points, you can have it boosted with referral bonuses, which will be convertible to C-pool. Of course, that's Ocean's governance token. Again, I'm going to show some highlights about why C-pool has always been the utility driver for Clearpool. Clearpool is now live on both Ethereum and Solana. So again, that's a huge catalyst, right? As a utility and governance token is at the heart of the Clearpool and Ocean ecosystem, C-pool empowers a new era of real-world asset finance. Some of you guys asked me in DMs, you said, with this new blockchain for Clearpool, Ocean, what would happen to the C-pool token? There's your answer. C-pool is still the utility token behind Ocean. That's major, okay? So this is cool to see this. And again, bridging traditional markets and blockchain infrastructure. Sounds kind of familiar, does it not? But again, this is a very low market cap gem. And this was posted May 12th, today, my birthday. So earlier this morning. So you guys, we get the chopped up version, might be a little bit later. So when you go over to app.ocean.finance/earn, you can see how this all comes together. You can connect many different wallets if you choose to do so. But where the case be, just like they mentioned, you can see what's in total value locked. You can see, for example, what protocols are being used here, like Hex Trust, Ethena, Circle, Wrap BTC, so on and so forth. It's all here. Interesting even to see the whole thing of, maple, right? There's maple syrup, and that has, I guess, apparently an integration now with Clearpool. I always thought that was incredibly interesting. So what I want to do now is I want to take you over to here, and this is referred to as Ocean.finance. It says unlock yield opportunities. Some of you guys, like, this is right up your alley. So again, WaveMaker is Ocean's real-world asset accelerator. Okay, leveraging a curated network of service providers and institutions to launch assets on Ocean with expert guidance and investor connections. But on the right, again, like I was pointing out, Cpool is definitely the utility token driving Ocean and Clearpool. It always has been and always will be. They're not going to turn their backs on it because that was the culprit of it all, right? So this is so cool to see this. It's not dumping this whole thing. You're not going to the whole thing of, like, oh no, this is a V2, V3, blah, 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 or, V5 or, whatever. No, the Cpool token has always been the utility token, not just for Clearpool, but also for Ocean. All right. Let me take you further into this. There's another recent announcement. If you wonder how long ago, this was also May 12th, right? So Cpool, more than just a token, engine behind 5 live products. And we talked about some of this stuff. The one I want to jump down to is actually this right here about Radium and Solana. Again, major announcements from Clearpool, and it's not a lot of people are paying attention to Clearpool. Honestly, hardly anybody is. Clearpool now live for trading on Radium protocol. Some of you guys are into Radium. I know you are. And then you can follow that contract address if you choose to do so. They say it's just the beginning, but now you can buy Cpool even on Solana. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I know I mentioned the whole thing about, like, Quant, and I mentioned the whole thing, obviously, about CBCN. So before we get into that, what I want to share with you is this. We know when it comes to ZBCN, like build on Solana and whatnot, I think there's some kind of connection here. I really, really do. So I pull this up. I want you guys to see it for yourself. The partnership with Payment Finance. Again, some of these players you probably never heard of. Leading DeFi platform on Binance Smart Chain, founded by who? Listen to this. Wall Street veterans. That in itself is very bullish. Democratizing top-tier investment funds with instant liquidity. Now, not a lot of people follow them, right? Again, you may have never heard of them. It says they enable on-chain access to institutional-grade private credit, including Blackstone's, have I not caught your attention on this one, 50 billion plus private credit fund, which is called BCred. Shout out to Rue Black. Him and I did a collaboration more than, I think, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 times now. In the ZBCN community, we pointed out that connection of a key person from Brayer Capital, right? And the whole ZBEC plug, all right? The plug was Blackstone and his experience with Blackstone. Then later on, we uncovered the whole thing of BlackRock. And in our opinion, while there's so much talk about your Ondos and so on, in reality, ZBCN is the only cryptocurrency, to our knowledge, we could be wrong, that you have the plug of BlackRock and Blackstone. But it's so interesting to see the common ground here of your Solana and also what you have, obviously, with Blackstone. Okay? It was really eye-opening. I'll show you why it's a little bit more eye-opening. Again, if you're a ZBCN holder, you may very well want to consider looking into Clearpool, okay? And I've done over 50 videos on Clearpool. I want to point this out. Blackstone, the world's largest alternative asset manager with over 1.1 trillion assets under management, consistently delivers strong performance through BCred, its flagship private credit fund. The collaboration will launch the Payment High Yield Token, which is HYD, Ocean, for example, and bring opportunities like BCred exposure, of course, on Ocean. Exposure on Ocean, this is really bullish moving forward. Beyond private credit, according to the quotation, Payment is pioneering real asset and secondary share tokenization. This includes an Airbus A320 and pre-IPO shares in SpaceX and Stripe. I have pointed out And again, if you guys want to watch it, you're more than welcome to. How many times the old Max point out Overledger integration with SpaceX and also the whole plug of Stripe. We've been there and done that. Yeah. Again, if this is not catching your attention, nothing will. With Addition Hedge Fund and private equity, strategies will be launched in 2025, says Guyan Liu of Pyman Finance. And of course, there's more. But again, this was only about 6 days ago this was posted. And for the most part, kind of flew under the radar. I mean, they did a decent amount of views on that. That's not the point. Here's the point. Again, when you get into this, Pyman Finance, Wall Street, veterans of Wall Street. Some of you guys are always asking, how in the heck do we take institutional grade Wall Street platforms that are very, very low market cap and plug them into DeFi? To me, this is already the answer. Again, when my XRPs were going way high and so on, and a lot of us were so glad we did the 10x, again, the one that did 25x for old Max, and for my friend over 50x because of his last position. There is so much here when it comes to Clearpool because it's always been, as I was referred to, as utility in motion now. It's not utility in motion for the future. I mean, yeah, it is because they're building out. But it's always been the now utility. You have VCs that literally need the platform. VCs have problem when it comes to gathering up like the collateral that's needed. They provide a solution for that. But to tie in the whole thing about Wall Street, I think it's major. As we pull up more about this and why it matters to you, you will see here the whole concept of how it all comes together. 9 hours ago, posted from Pyman Finance, the launch announcement. They debut a high yield token, HYD, and it merges Wall Street grade private credit with DeFi. This is the bridge from that traditional market, everybody. They have a target APY of 10% plus via Blackstone private credit fund. My goodness. So it's safe to say that when you talk about what we found with ZBCN, which is bullish as all you know what, because of Blackstone, BlackRock, but now you have this whole thing of Clearpool, because when we talk about our Ondos, we talk about our ZBCNs and so on, and it's always nice to reference what's going on with BlackRock and especially Blackstone. You got to give Clearpool their flowers on this one because, again, B-Cred. This is basically your plug to Clearpool. And it apparently has always been that way, but again, it just doesn't get the attention. Let's get, again, a little bit more into this. So, key features: low volatility, institutional grade assets, transparency, live on Binance, subscriptions open for June 1st cohort, limited spots. All right, look more into it if you choose to do so, but what's written in the fine print, I think this is a good catch, is the bottom left. B-Cred delivers 10% historical annualized returns via high-quality senior secured loans to 500 plus companies, uncorrelated to crypto or equities, with a greater than 3% max drawdown and institutional grade diversification. This defensive asset, once exclusive to institutional investors, is now tokenized by Pyman. My goodness. And to have the whole thing connected with Clearpool, are we not bullish enough on some of those key findings? Now, speaking of key findings, you guys know what I do. We get more into it. Pyman.finance points out this in their highlight. You see Goldman Sachs here. You see, for example, bottom left of the screen mentions led by Wall Street portfolio managers with 60 plus years working experience combined and 10 billion asset managers combined. You have your Goldman Sachs. You have, for example, JP Morgan. Heck, you even have a reference to CFTC here, UBS, Harvard University, MIT, and 100 plus billion combined assets under management just with them, not counting all the other discoveries we had about, for example, the 1 trillion assets under management with Blackstone. All right. Now, here's what's also good. And again, why I'm pointing out some of this stuff. Now, we just talked about Solana. Well, recently, with the ZBCN, what do you have? Literally, about, what time is it now? 4:06. So about 6 hours ago, ZBCN had a new announcement. ZBEC Cards Partnerships. ZBEX times CLI app. We are teaming up with CLI AI, an AI infrastructure project on Solana. Interesting. And empowering devs to deploy and scale AI agents autonomously. CLI supports lands on ZBEX silver cards this week with a custom CLI debit card, of course, on the way. Now, some of you guys are already taking advantage of some of the other ones, right? Not necessarily this one, but the other ones that just came out like last month. Shout out to Terrell, some of the other guys in the community, right? Now, here's what's, in my opinion, the smoking gun. Okay, if you go to Overledger, all right, what do we have? Well, we have this. How do you want to automate with the Overledger? Prompt, edit, and deploy AI agents that connect to Overledger and 2,500 plus apps in, of course, seconds. If you do a search and you type in AI agents, they have at least 13 integrations with AI agents. Obviously, Pipedream for devs. You have Agent X, which is a chatbot built for these specific platforms. You have AI Chatbot Hub, create no-code AI agents. You have Anchor Browser, a browser for AI agents. You kind of get the idea, but even this one, right? Human Layer API SDK, which means Software Development Kit, if you're wondering what that stands for, that enables AI agents to contact humans for feedback, input, and approvals. But even Hyper Browser, some of you guys are familiar with that, especially if you're devs. Cloud browsers for your AI agents. It just gets better and better. Inferable open source platform for creating AI agents. Again, you get the idea, especially when it comes to Insight AI and the whole concept of what AI agents. All right, just in case you never seen our other dives, in our discoveries, we found Overledger integration with ADP. And we know how big, everybody, ADP will be when it comes to payroll, right? And we already have Lisa Robbins, who sits with ZBEC when it comes to her experience, obviously, with payroll. So to see this, again, pounds at home that much more about why people like myself and, Rue Black and so on, we will not stop talking about this ZBEC thing. And again, that integration, that is a big find. Okay, check this out. Why is it a big find? It's payroll. Interesting to see this because today, May 12th, my birthday, 37 million in monthly payroll volume, 10,200 plus employees served, 9,581 cards issued across 97 countries. Card adoption continues to grow, and payroll volumes remain strong to kick off May. Now, I realize ZBEC is down for the day, but again, I can come to the conclusion that when we're talking about payroll, we're talking about AI agents. What about AI agents even mixed with the whole thing of payroll? So it's interesting to see these new announcements, but more particularly, it's really interesting to see how it all really truly comes together. And for me, how it all comes together is understanding what, everybody? It's understanding the key findings. And that basically is this. It's interoperability. All of these things talk to each other, whether it's Clearpool, Quant Overledger, integration with AI agents, integration with payroll, what ZBEC brings to the mix, as far as their connections to obviously Blackstone, what Clearpool brings with their connections, obviously with Blackstone. There's a bigger picture here. Both Clearpool and ZBEC are two very slept-on projects with very, very low market cap. Now, if you're an American and you're considering getting Clearpool, you go through Kraken. And what's the pairing with that? US dollars. So you actually spend US dollars, get on, Kraken, for example. If you want to use a hot wallet with that, you can mix it with, for example, Trust Wallet, right? And if you want to get it off the exchange, by all means, do so. And then on top of that, ZBEC, you can get that, obviously, Uphold. I wish, BTCC had that. They don't. Maybe I'll try to reach out to them and see if they can get that on there. But I think these are some key findings, but it's just basically Overledger. Every single time we look more into this, we can find some things about integration, especially when it comes to AI and these key things. And speaking of integration, I want to point this out. This video technically released an hour and 11 minutes ago. Maybe some of you guys are watching it. I will highlight that real quick on my channel. And I did a collaboration a few days ago, but it aired today, right? I want to share this with you guys. So basically speaking, here it is. Okay, breaking Quant announces massive AI integration. Okay, and it's basically in 2025, but it's the AI agents. In the thumbnail, you see Constellation DAG, you see Jasmi, and you see Hedera. It's what's indirectly being used, but what really stands out is your Hedera, your Constellation DAG especially, and you will finally see with proof why old Max here has been talking about Quant and Jasmi for the longest time. Yes, I understand that specifically Jasmi went with Chainlink, and that's fine, but you'll see some proof there with the research about why that's big. So, I'll just give you a little heads up. It's called basically Whippy. All right. And you're going to see some real people with real business, with real visuals in the video of them using Quant Flow. Yeah, you heard me right. For their automation. It's absolutely massive. Not enough people were talking about Quant with Quant Flow, but we have seen numerous examples now at the institutional grade scale of that. It's a major deal moving forward. And again, for me, it's just regulations have to be, maybe people call it the flip of the switch. It's definitely going to do something, in my opinion. If it doesn't, then I don't even know what to say. But I do feel as though that these are the major catalysts moving forward. But check out that video. Again, shout out to Channing Harrell. We did collaboration on that, and that's one of the latest that's in the recorded video content. What you guys see here is on the live. Those are two different containers or baskets of things that are available to you guys. So just wanted to point that out as well. And I think, if anything, that is going to conclude it all. I'm going to read the last bit of comments, and we almost went basically, we probably go over a little over 3 hours and so on. So let me read this. So, all right, let's go further down. Matt says he's got XRP, HBAR, QNT, XTC, XLM, ZBCN, Jasmi, BTC, and Render. All right, cool. Michael John Scott, please discuss which ISO coins have better tokenomics out of all those already compliant. Well, I'm not going to do too heavy of a deep dive, but I can tell you this much. So number one would be obviously QNT. There's only about 14.88 million tokens. So that takes the cake. They have the best tokenomics of all the projects out there. More of a scarce supply compared to like your BTC. Yeah, BTC isn't ISO 222, but technically speaking, the wrapped version can be. We've done research about that. Me and Will Fix talked about that. What can make that happen? It's your plug with XDC, because we know that when it comes to XDC, that was the thing that can get that done. But that's a whole other story in itself. So yeah, number one would definitely be QNT. I would say number two of that mix might possibly be Stellar, with only 50 billion coins. There might be some other ones, obviously. Actually, I take that back. IOTA. IOTA doesn't get mentioned enough. I'm trying to cover that a little bit more on my channel. So IOTA, actually, my bad, would be probably number two on that list for the most limited supply and really good tokenomics. So I would look more into that. So there you go. There's about three on that list. Let me go further down. So yeah, I agree with Matt on this one. Yep, Maple and Theta. And I believe Maple, if I'm not mistaken, is now with Clearpool, which is insane. They're killing on that. All right, let's go further down. Yep, that's a good point. And, even with Quant, they got interoperability with Cosmos on that, which is really cool. I would agree with that. Yeah, I know you've always been pretty bullish on that. All right, let's go further down into the comments. Let's see here. Cool Cat's got an announcement. He says, Adam, 527 in the year. Adam, 75 to 100. 527 in the year. Wow. That'd be incredible. All right. You're going to call it now? Interesting. Joshua Joseph, welcome. Thanks for attending or showing up. You can always watch the replay if you choose to do so. There'll be chopped up ones later. We point out some of the coins and tokens you're in. Cool. Phantom Beat. Yo. Welcome. Bonkers, I tell you. Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate that. All right. Thank you, Joshua Joseph. That means a lot. God bless you and your family. Kim Miranda, happy birthday. Hey, thanks, Kim. Appreciate that. Thank you, Thomas. Michael John Scott, I'm sparking one up now. Max, cheers for chilling them tunes. Hey, cool. Very cool. Walter Swinho. All right. Happy birthday. I hope you have a blessed day. You too, man. We did cover just a little bit of SHX earlier. Cool. All right. Well, I think that's a show. Thank you so much to all you guys that tuned in. Basically, on the combined live stream, we hit 603. So earlier on YouTube, we were like, I don't know, maybe 120, 130. But yeah, on X, I got to get monetized on X. It's really frustrating, you know what I mean? Because most of the viewers come from X, but it is what it is. We will see you guys on the next one. Thanks again. I want to give a shout out to Boozy. He's late. Happy birthday, Max. I'm telling you, Boozy, I want to give you a shout out real quick, man. Like, anybody you guys follow NBA basketball, you tell me, okay? Does that not look like, I'm not saying you look like him in real life, but at least on that stretched out version you did there, does that not look like Joakim Noah? That looks like more like Joakim Noah than Joakim Noah. You know what I mean? So, very cool. Joshua Joseph, $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Cheers to you as well. Some of you guys have some questions to get answered. I apologize, but I can't go through every single one. We'll be here for like 4 or 5 hours. We were here for about 3. So thank you so much. That means a lot, especially on my birthday. Thanks to you again to all you guys that dropped super chats. You didn't have to do that, but that was very kind of you. More than appreciate that. Joakim Noah, what's up? What happened? You changed? Oh, no, you didn't. That's Boozy. Let's check that again. Come on, man. I mean, that ain't Joakim Noah. It's Joakim Noah. Yeah, Joakim was pretty damn good. I agree. I guess his parents were like former athletes too. So one more time, Boozy. This is not us make it funny because I mean people could clearly make fun of me. I just think on that stretch out pick, man. I mean that is Joakim Noah, man. It really is Joakim. All right, we're gonna play the outro. Hopefully, you guys will enjoy it. And thanks for tuning in. Smash that like on your way out. If you're regular, consider subscribing. And you guys will see some chopped up ones and so on. I got some other videos already done. 2 will air tomorrow. Let's see, tomorrow is Tuesday. And there'll be more throughout the week. So my goal is try to put out like maybe 2 to 3, maybe 4 a day. And that's trying to be a consistent thing. It's a lot of hard work, but I'm glad to do it. And trying to obviously scale up the channel. Thank you so much to everybody that helped make that happen. All right. So again, get yourself some free USDT, $10 worth over there. If you do more of the tasks, you can get like 30 and so on. And again, if you're new to leverage trading, please don't get wrecked. Prevent yourself from getting wrecked by doing demo trading. Okay. So key thing there is demo trading. Once you're comfortable with that, follow a guy named All the Money by Q. He just scaled up to 94% on his success rate. How cool is that? But again, do the demo trading first, get comfortable with it and so on. And then if you want to get your feet wet, don't go all in. Maybe start off with like maybe 20 or something like that, or whatever you could afford to potentially lose. But again, demo trading first. That way you're not playing with real money. Okay, but at minimum, get yourself a free $10 in USDT. How cool is that? Don't like USDT Tether? I get it. Swap it to something else. Get yourself a decent wallet if you don't have cold storage. Links are in the description. Sayonara from the Rice Crop Consortium. We'll see you guys on the next one. Glad to be here with you. And here's the, I don't know, here's the outro here in a second. Let me just see which one. What one are we going to do as we play it off? Let me see. We can do, I think we're going to do Lose Yourself. Are you going to lose yourself with all this generational wealth? Are you going to lose yourself in the moment of the greatest opportunities? Might very well be. Here we go. Shout out to all you guys. Really, really do appreciate it. Here we go.
His palms are sweating, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti. He's nervous, but on the surface, he looks calm and ready to drop bombs, but he keeps on forgetting. What he wrote down, the whole crowd goes so loud. He opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking how? Everybody's joking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over blow. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes gravity. Choked, he's so mad, but he won't give up that easy. No, he won't have it. He knows his whole back's to these ropes, it don't matter. He's dope, he knows that, but he's broke, he's so stagnant. He knows when he goes back to this mobile home, that's when it's back to the lab again. Yo, this old rhapsody, better go capture this moment and hope it don't pass him. You better lose yourself in the music, the moment you own it, you better never let it go. You only get one shot, do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime, yo. Yeah. You better lose yourself in the music, the moment you own it, you better never let it go. You only get one shot, do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime, yo. You better. His soul's escaping through this hole that is gaping. This world is mine for the taking, make me king. As we move toward a new world order, a normal life is boring, but superstardom's close to postmortem. It only grows harder, homie grows harder. He blows, it's all over, over. These hoes is all on him, coast to coast shows. He's known as the globetrotter, load of lonely roads. God only knows he's grown farther from home, he's no father. He goes home and barely knows his own daughter. But hold your nose, cause here goes the cold water. These hoes don't want him no more, he's cold product. They moved on to the next schmo who flows, he knows Dove and Soul Nada. And so the soap opera is told, it unfolds, I suppose it's old, partner. But the beat goes on, da-da-dum, da-dum, da-da-da-da. You better lose yourself in the music, the moment you own it, you better never let it go. You only get one shot, do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime, yo. Yo, you better lose yourself in the music, the moment you own it, you better never let it go. You only get one shot, do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime, yo.